Check 1 2 3, 1 2 3. All right, here we go. TJ Downing, John Lowery here at the 62nd annual Hoover Holiday Wrestling Tournament. Welcome in, everybody, streaming us live on our YouTube channel. Appreciate everybody who joined us yesterday as Jim Bostic and John Lowery were out here with our guy Tim Arnold. Got a chance to interview his son Colton Arnold, who lost his first match here this morning and was able to get into the following match win, and he will now face off with Lake Local Schools. The Blue Streaks own Anthony Miller. So a battle of number 79s off of the football field will be coming up here shortly. But as I usher in my partner here, John Lowery. John, as we walked in here today, they were kind of finishing up some of the consies. We know that we have some guys that have officially entered their name into the ring for the finals. A guy like Chris Ernest out of Wadsworth at 157. Todd Wilson out of the Youngstown area at 144. We just saw a victory down here.
Oh, yeah.
One of the Minerva Lions got a pin. Also, Holt with a victory over the Benedictine Bengal down there on mat 4. Just rattling off here quickly. Again, as we welcome everybody in on the 62nd annual Hoover Holiday Wrestling Tournament, day 2 here. We'll have your finals, your champions will come out here at about 5:45, and we'll get finals underway at 6 o'clock here at Hoover High School. Shout out to Tom Oakes and everybody here at the school who got us set up, got us in the catbird seat here. But a look down at some of the teams that are competing in this tournament this weekend. Talked about the Lake Blue Streaks, Jackson Polar Bears. You've also got Steubenville. The Dalton Bulldogs are here. Olentangy, Lewis Center is here. Tuslaw, Wadsworth, Dublin Scioto, Watkins Memorial, the Louisville Leopards. If you didn't get a chance, go over and check out on our YouTube page. We had a chance to catch up with Coach Micah Coleman, also his dad, and Rocky Laughlin, all the boys out there at Louisville as we had our second episode of In the Room with Jim Bostic. So you can go over and check that out on our YouTube page. It's up there under the videos. Check it out. Give us a like, give us a share, give us a follow, subscribe, push us out there so we can continue to grow this thing. Some other teams locally in this deal, the Fairless Falcons, the Green Bulldogs. We just mentioned a team out of Michigan, Holt, they're here. The Carrollton Warriors are here. Brush, West Holmes, the Massillon Tigers are in the house. CVCA, coached by Nathan Tomasello, who we had a chance to talk to last week at the Walsh Ironman. And speaking of Walsh, the Walsh Jesuit Warriors are here in the house. Not just John Lowery, but some of the other Warriors have trickled down here. They didn't get enough last weekend, so they're back for more. The Alliance Aviators are in the house. Copley, Minerva, we talked about the Minerva Lions, just saw them down here get a victory by pin, and I believe we will have another Minerva wrestler coming up here, looking for him to spin that jersey around that singlet. Tangled up down there at mat 4. We'll see if some more Minerva Lions take the mat. St. Vincent St. Mary, the Irish are in the house. Benedictine, the Bengals are here. University School, Union Local, Ripley out of West Virginia, also Huntington out of West Virginia. And the Smithville Smithies are in the house. So, John, I'll tell you what, man, you got to see a lot of the action yesterday. What really kind of stuck out to you in some of the first matches as you and Jim Bostic got us underway yesterday at the 62nd annual tournament here?
The unknown factor, man. That's like, Iron Man had, a similar kind of thing that I really like seeing is, especially we got, kids from Michigan, West Virginia here. So it's cool to see these first and second round matchups where you got guys literally, didn't know about maybe, what this guy was up to, where he was from, what he was all about. There was, we talked about yesterday, 8 state champs in this tournament total. And I believe 52 state placers total, just to kind of give you an idea of how tough of a tournament this is. And that's not to mention all the state qualifiers. So, this is, North Canton Holiday Classic. This year 62?
62.
Yeah, so that's, they've developed this into a very tough tournament. You got, it's not just Stark County teams that are representing. It's out of state. You got, Benedictine, like you mentioned, up from Cleveland, Walsh Jesuit. It's not. This is a no nonsense tournament, that's for sure, and we're seeing that.
Yeah, you see some of the criteria for teams for some of these young men in this tournament here as we're looking down. Okay, we've got a Massillon Tiger. I believe that is Cody Fair underneath us taking on a Walsh Jesuit wrestler. John's going to kind of rattle through some of the stuff over that our friends Sakura Tournaments
Yep.
Sakura Software able to keep us plugged in on. And
that's a 165-pound matchup there. That's Corum from Massillon versus Geiger from Walsh.
Okay, so that's Brandon Carmen.
Yep. And then we got here you go.
Oh, I was just checking the name there. Nope, Damian Corum. Yeah, there you go, senior. He'll be on bottom. Who's the Walsh Jesuit wrestler that he's got here? Louis Geiger.
Yep, Louis,
sweet Lou. So they're battling out down there. You see one of the all-time leading tacklers for the Tigers in the corner there for the young man Corum. That's Spencer Lino. And looks like we will have Grayson Siders from Dalton taking on Hunter Rose from New Lexington. And then Matt Galimo, if you remember that name from the football field, the Green Bulldog, he's going to be squaring off with Ahmad Defala from Dublin Scioto. John, you were kind of watching some of those Dublin Scioto wrestlers warm up, and you were impressed with the overall performance, the overall look. These guys really kind of showed up from Columbus, meaning business.
Yes, they did. Yeah, no nonsense, man. They showed up. They made quite the trip, to get up here, and they must have told their guys that, hey, we're taking some hardware home because we're not leaving until we do. They have tough in the upper weights, I noticed, by the way, with Dublin Scioto. So Jim was talking about yesterday how important, it is to have a good drill partner or, guys in the room around you to support you. Well, yeah, I'm seeing that in that team, that Dublin Scioto team with their upper weights. Oh, there he is. We are.
Coach.
Yeah.
How are you, man? Pop a headset on here. Let's
We are very blessed to be joined by greatness here from the wrestling royalty.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Mount Union Purple Raiders coach Ryan Riggs joining us here now. Coach, what have you seen thus far from the 62nd annual Hoover Holiday Tournament? I mean, these guys have really showed out. There's some high-end competition here, right?
Yeah, great event, and right in the backyard too. But yeah, tough wrestling. A lot of great coaches, a lot of fun.
Yeah, John and I had a chance last week. We were up at the Walsh Ironman, and we saw the likes of Indiana Hoosiers, Michigan State, Purdue, the Wisconsins, all these coaches coming through, and it's like, seems logical, right? If you're looking for a guy to fill a void, a graduating guy, come to this tournament and find one of the elite, one of the best in the country. For you guys, the Purple Raiders, as you look to fill out when you guys are looking after a graduation, these are tournaments that you come to looking for potential student athletes to bring on, right?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Love Northeast Ohio guys, and they bring other tough teams to this tournament as well. But yeah, lots of talent. Kids are passionate about wrestling, real high ceilings. That's what we look for.
Yeah, Coach, talk a little bit about your squad, where you guys are at right now. I know a couple of our friends out there in Purple Raider Nation are still a little soft after last night, man. Purple Raiders came up short in the national championship in football, but where are you guys at as you guys have started your winter season and have really started to dig your feet in?
Yeah, we finished the first part of the season. A lot of good wins, a lot of new faces in the lineup, 7 freshmen. Then I brought in a transfer last year, Jack Stanley, and then 2 seniors in the lineup, so 165, 174. So young team, they're only rankings, but we have a lot of good wins. We're ranked number 22 in the country.
Wow.
With such a young team, seeing how resilient these guys have been, just super proud of them. And as we enter the second phase, there's still a lot of wrestling to be made and looking for a lot more big wins. But, yeah, it's fun. Great group of guys. A lot of guys Northeast Ohio and then throughout the state of Ohio and some guys coming in Pennsylvania. But, yeah, we have more guys ranked in the regionals right now than we did last year.
Nice.
That's what I was just going to follow up with. Yeah, how many ranking athletes you got on the team this season right now?
We have 4 in the regional rankings, which is our national qualifier, 22 teams.
Okay.
And then we have Jack Stanley. He was my first commitment last year right after I was hired August 1st. He's out of Brecksville. He's ranked number 2 in the country at 125. He's a junior this year.
Now, so maybe help fill me in on this. Is the regional, is that like Pitt Johnstown, or are they not even same division?
No, yeah, they're D2.
Okay.
D3, how it works is, we're the largest division, about 130 schools. There's six regions, and top 3 go to nationals.
130 with programs?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Learned something new today. Yeah, that's way more than what's D1? It's
D1 and 2 around, higher
like
70s, 80
right.
teams.
Yeah. You guys are like almost double. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of competitive teams and a lot of good wrestling. But yeah, out of the 6 regionals, it's tough. It's definitely tough getting that top 3.
That's a whole new ball game. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, we have 2 freshmen in there, 2 seniors and junior that are ranked within our region. And well, actually, I named 5 guys. We have 4 guys ranked regionally. One, Jack Stanley's number 1 in the region ranking. Like I said, these are rankings, but we had a lot of good wins first half of the year. 157 pounder. He's out of Eastern Pennsylvania, Exeter High School. Nick Nettleton. He's ranked number 4 at 157. Just a freshman, but he's on fire. He has 18 wins this year, and he beat the 13th ranked wrestler in the country, 11-5, just recently. So he's really coming on. But just as a whole, up and down the lineup, guys are doing a great job. Nick Chaddock, he's Minerva guy, right in our backyard, 184 pounder. He's doing really well for us. But I could just go up and down the lineup. Dalton's here. We have Austin Ryder. He's doing a great job. He's a freshman. So, but yeah, we get a lot of local talent. Love retaining these guys in Northeast Ohio.
Well, speaking of local, when's the next home match?
Next home match, we have the Purple Raider Open, January 15th. And that has a lot of Division I teams, really competitive tournament. And then we have 3 home events after that. So we have a duel against Muskingum, OAC quad January 1st. Then we close out with Ashland and Baldwin Wallace, the tri-meet February 12th.
So let me ask you this: I know every sport's different, but some schools have the rivalries. Who would you say your in-state rivalry would be, or is it an out-of-state team?
Yeah, I mean rivalries. The OAC is really competitive. Those teams do a good job, and right now with our young team, I have a plan in place, and Wartburg sets a tone nationally, and those are the guys to beat.
Wartburg, okay.
Coach, you said you just came in last year. You talk about what your experience was leading into taking over the Purple Raiders and what you've kind of done in that first year to kind of put whatever type of culture, feel, your stamp on this program.
Yeah, I was coaching down in Virginia for a while. So just to be back home in Stark County, it's even during my job interview, it felt like home, and it is my home. I live a mile from the campus. So I'm close. But I knew we were like senior heavy when I was coming in. And, I helped build a program pretty quickly. We were regional champions, and I coached 6 All-Americans with the newer program of Ferrum College down in Virginia. And we're building now. And our returners are enthusiastic. Guys are buying in and the resources. I have great assistant coaches, Sam White, Tony Daly.
Oh, wow.
And myself. Yep. Yeah, we're all coached by my dad. So I've known those guys that are coming up and help train them, and just them help me. They're doing a great job. And then we brought on Jordan James, who was our national champion last year.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, shout out to your dad, man. How's he doing these days? Or what's he doing these days?
He's doing good. He was running Riggs Elite Wrestling Club, and he's back on staff officially at Massillon Perry since he retired in 2015. I have 2 nephews that go to Perry. They're 8th and 9th graders, Mason and Lincoln Rohr. And so he's out at Beast of the East. Mason's a 9th grader at 113. Yeah. So he won his first match in overtime. He's doing a good job.
Nice.
That's awesome. Glad to hear that, man.
Yeah, we got a chance last week to catch up with a lot of the Perry Panthers as they were getting ready for the Ironman, and thought it was cool seeing, even though Aiden Faulkner didn't wrestle, but Tim Anderson and him, the work that they get together, and Tim being a state champion from Clyde High School, and I played ball against him down there at Ohio State. I know just what a technician he was. So, it was similar to me as we went out. We shot an episode of In the Room with Jim Bostic last week over at Louisville, and I see a guy standing down here to the right, Adam Gregory, who was, a 3-year starter for Kent State on their offensive line and a legend to come out of the Perry ranks. And, for your bigs to be rolling around with guys like that, it's we talk all the time. John talks all the time. Jim does about your drill partner. I mean, the guy that you're working with in the room, when nobody's looking, that work that's being put in there. Talk about your guys' room and kind of those drilling partners and how those guys have worked off of each other and really kind of that iron sharpens iron mentality.
Yeah, we have, even though we're a young team, tough workout partners, really structured. And like I said, they're buying in, working hard, making the adjustments, and that's what's making a difference, in our performance on the mat. So they're doing a good job.
It's good to hear. Very good to hear. Now at Mount Union, you guys have that open coming up. That's not just people in your division. You get D1 guys, NAIAs. You get a little bit of mix of everybody. Is that correct at that open?
Yeah, mix everybody, and it's primarily Division One. We
Okay.
had 3 placers at that last year. Jordan James won it.
Wow.
David Massey placed, and even our backup 25, Eric Gerbach. He was a scrappy guy too. He graduated last year.
And when is that Purple Raider Open, Coach?
January 15th.
January 15th. All right, so everybody listening out there, make sure you get out there and pack the gym, and that should be a great afternoon. Is that a whole weekend event?
One-day tournament.
One-day
So
tournament?
we'll have 7 to 8 mats.
Nice.
Coach, as you look at the history of the Purple Raiders, and I thought that was kind of cool. You mentioned Chaddock, and everybody kind of knows that name down in the Minerva area and their family and what they've done with wrestling. And for me, oh boy, yeah, saying we're professionals on here. That's great. I'll tell you what, for a Saturday afternoon, they're buttering us up already, man.
Yeah. Shout out to Tom Bell.
Coach, you when you look at the history of programs, right? Have you been able to lean on anybody that's kind of come through Mount Union over the years? I think of a close friend of mine, like a Sandy Womack, who was a national champ there. Like, are there guys that you brought in to maybe say, listen, I want you to talk to these current players here, kind of tell them what it was like from your perspective and what the program means to you? Have you been able to utilize any stuff like that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and connecting with alumni is huge. So that when I got hired, just making those connections. A lot of them I know just coming up through Stark County and a wrestling family. But, yeah, I had lunch with Sandy Womack. He's doing a great job living down the Columbus area. And he used to train with my dad in the offseason a lot.
Yeah.
And he still looks in pretty good shape. I've had – at least 5 alumni just this year talk to the guys in our team. One is a Carrollton guy, Steve Harder. He was an All-American, the only football and wrestling All-American back in 1983. He graduated 84. He came up last year and came up again this year. He's keeping a close eye on the program. But he started something that's really fantastic. It's a pilot mentoring program just for the student athletes. So we have 100 alumni working within the field that are acting as mentors with the undergraduates. And so a lot of wrestlers involved with that. Next year, he's going to have 200 alumni for the student athletes. So
that's great stuff.
That made a difference with him coming through. Mount Union having mentors. And so that program's been really beneficial for our guys, our student athletes, not just wrestling, but all sports. And, but yeah, he's been very successful and gives a lot back to Mount Union. So he's living in Texas, but, he knows who all the guys are and follows them close. Also, we had in a recent graduate, Connor Holman. He was a national qualifier, NWCA All-American, was canceled in 2020. So recent graduate, and just hearing his story and how wrestling helped him get where he's at, working in the financial field down in North Carolina. That's very instrumental to our guys. Ray McDonald, he's around the program.
Ray.
Yep.
You guys were talking about him yesterday.
Yeah.
So
playing that bass, baby.
He does, yeah. Right, bass player. My nephew's Mason. He plays bass too, so they have that connection.
Oh, that's cool.
But I've always known Ray, but I've got to know him a lot more the last, since I've been at Mount Union, last year and a half, and just such a great guy. He comes out to tournaments with us, comes in the room. And just how guys respond to him. He's got a lot to offer, so just grateful he's around the program. And another Carrollton guy, Rick Shantz. He was another All-American for us in the 1970s. He's living in Louisville. Just getting these recent and older alumni, just connected with the guys is huge because we do have a strong history.
That helps.
That's what attracted me to the wrestling position is this strong history that we have and the potential the team has to really build a dynasty here in Alliance, Ohio for wrestling.
That's great, man. We know the history of athletics there with the Mount Union Purple Raiders. I mean, it's strong, and for you to be able to carry that torch on, it's great to have you out here. We appreciate you jumping on with us here on the Start Media YouTube channel. And Coach, I guess some of your fondest memories, when you were a young wrestler, when it's fun for us as we become older guys now. We come out here and we kind of live through the youth and vicariously through these young guys as they're out here competing. And, they can do things with their body that when we get out of bed in the morning, it doesn't feel the same. But what are some of your favorite memories from wrestling in the area around here when you were growing up?
Just the competitiveness and what you get out of the sport, the life skills, and really the relationships. That's what it's all about. And being back in Stark County, I mentioned that a few times, but just, it's so much fun, the relationships that you build in the community. And it still holds strong, true today. And just so many great families. So that's what I'm most fond of just relationships, and carrying those relationships is huge.
Well, look at us, man.
Yep.
How far we go back,
Long time.
Traveling to tournaments all across the country. Yeah.
I remember I broke my wrist in 8th grade, and you guys,
Michigan.
your family took me to the hospital. My dad was coming the next day, so he wasn't up there yet.
I remember that. Yeah. Yep. Wow.
He's riding in Pops' van.
Yeah, the gold van.
The gold van, and that thing was legendary. Yeah. That thing would show up to tournaments, and they bring in extra security.
That's right. Yeah, I remember being in that van many times. Good stuff.
That's great stuff. Well, Coach, we appreciate you joining us, man. You want to kind of check out the rest of the action, and appreciate Coach Ryan Riggs, wrestling coach for the Mount Union Purple Raiders, a great university out there in Alliance. Great things going on, and shout out again to Coach Jeff Dart. Got the boys in the national championship last night. I know they weren't able to do it, but they fought all the way to the end. I believe it came down to an onside kick. Close matchup. Took on a tough North Central Illinois team, but we're going to keep our eyes on you guys. You look to compete against Wartburg. You kind of said that they're at that upper echelon there where, hey, if this is the measuring stick, let's go out there and let's test it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, and I got to catch the end of the football game when I got home from the tournament last night, and they're fighting to every second.
Yeah.
And they had 2 onside kicks, but it was fun to watch. I know they went to win, but they're such a great group of guys, and I'm always learning from them and Coach Dart, Coach Karras. Whenever on campus, those conversations, I get a lot out of those guys. So I appreciate everything you do for wrestling too. I thank you very much.
Yeah, definitely. We'll be out there to see you. And I guess whenever you have a chance to sit down and have some of those conversations with Coach Karras, you just kind of tune in and just hit the record button, man, and just start taking it in from that guy.
Yep.
Well,
thank you, guys.
Ryan, man. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so down here on mat number 5, we got Cody Fair squaring off with a young man from Madison. We know that I see Anthony Miller over here warming up. He's going to be taking on Colton Arnold down here as well. Got all 5 of these mats going here at North Canton Hoover High School for the 62nd annual Hoover Holiday Wrestling Tournament. Shout out real quick here to all of our sponsors that make these broadcasts possible, not only on here, but over with our friends at iHeartRadio at 99.7, 106.9. All of our great friends at iHeartRadio. I know our good guy, Brad Scarborough, has been out here doing some of the officiating. If you haven't had a chance to check out Ohio News and Events, Ohio Wrestling News and Events on Facebook, he put some great stuff out there. I know that he was kind of joking with our buddy Jason Atkins, who was out here. It looked like he was doing the Kimono Dragon last night. Have you had a chance to meet Jason Atkins?
I have.
Who works with us? Okay, he's an official. He's come on board with us here at Stark Media Team, doing some different stuff inside of our wrestling program here. But Jason last night, as he's officiating the match and he's looking for the pin, he's
I've seen him.
He's sliding across the mat. Look like the old Gila monster, the Kimono Dragon.
Kimono Dragon.
He was doing the Kimono Dragon, man. It was great. So our guy Brad Scarborough put a little video up of that on Facebook. Check it out. Check out Ohio Wrestling News and Events. Follow them. Follow us on our social medias as well. As Cody Fair is leading 2-0 in this match early. A minute remaining here. Check it, not early. A minute remaining in the second period, so about halfway through the deal. Again, shout out to our guy Tom Oakes, athletic director here at North Canton City Schools. Does a phenomenal job organizing this tournament. Not only this, but everything he does for all of his student athletes. One of the best in the business right here at North Canton Hoover, Tom Oakes. All right, so shout out to some of our special sponsors that we were getting at here. And as we have our buddy Tim Arnold right here next to us, and as we have his son, Colton Arnold, who's going to be chasing his pin record that he set last year of 35. We're going to continue to track that, but since we have him here, let's talk about our good friends at Leathernecks Nation MC. The battle for veterans continues even after they've returned home from war, fighting PTSD, health battles, suicidal thoughts, and more. Every day, 22 veterans commit suicide, losing their battle against their demons, and guys like Tom Indor, founder of Save 22, Tim Arnold, Padre David Cunningham, and all with the Leathernecks Nation MC and our friends Dave and Brian Bowman, along with Lucia at the Sam Center, are standing up for their fellow soldiers. Save 22 Veterans, founded in Carrollton, serves as a resource for veterans, first responders, and those in need alike, focusing on veteran suicide prevention and awareness locally and beyond. Save 22, a veteran-run organization, offers a number of veteran therapy programs, from professional racing, fishing, camping, and outdoor adventures. Also, just a shoulder to lean on or an ear to listen. So for more information, visit their website at save22.vet or follow Save 22 on social media by searching Save 22 Veterans. Broadcast on Stark Media YouTube channel and everywhere you can find us. Also brought to you in part by our friends at CH Vallis and Associates, Lindsay's Pizza, McNeil and Sons Tree Service, FinallyHereOhio.com, the Eagles FOE number 190, and Hilshire Clark Electric Company. We'll talk about all of those sponsors and partners of ours throughout the broadcast here this afternoon. Looks like a 5-0 lead halfway through the third period now for Cody Fair of Massillon. And if you didn't get a chance to see him on the football field this past season, phenomenal talent. I believe he will be back, only a junior. A lot of those linebackers for this Massillon Tiger group are going to be back. Dorian Pringle, who is one of the best in the state of Ohio, a first-team All-Ohio pick. Then you look at another guy like Brandon Carmen, along with Cody Fair, and these guys should be pretty talented again next year. And John, you know, one of the things I heard you guys talk about last night was the transition from a lot of these guys who have just gotten off the football field to now trying to get in match shape. You were a guy that played football for the Walsh Jesuit Warriors. You guys had some long playoff runs.
Right.
So what was your transition period like once you got off of the football field and tried to get in match shape?
Oh, it was terrible. Yeah. It's that's a whole nother experience in itself. Coming off that field, and then let's say you go to your after school practice, and then you catch the end of your wrestling practice if you can, and it was always it's a grind. It's a real grind trying to do that. A lot of gut-wrenching moments there, and then if you are trying to get your cardio, your wrestling lungs, let's call it that, back. That's a different kind of cardio, different kind of lungs you use in the sport of wrestling versus football. So, so a lot of guys today, are doing the whole, single sport thing. But shout out to all these guys that can do both, wrestling, football. Love seeing that. Yeah, just from my own experience, it's good to see somebody, out there that's not just doing, the wrestling year round, but can accomplish things out in the football field and then bring that, those ingredients into the wrestling room too with them, and vice versa. So I know Coach Urban Meyer, that's his go-to, saying back in his day. He used to say, well, love seeing these double sport athletes, especially these wrestlers. So there's a reason he used to make that statement.
Big matchup going on here right now on mat number 5. That's Anthony Miller from Lake and Colton Arnold for the Jackson Polar Bears. These guys squared off against each other on the football field this fall, and now they're going to battle it out here at the 62nd annual Hoover Holiday. We know that Cody Fair just got a 7-0 victory over Drayston Clark of Madison. So Cody Fair, he's going to be moving on and advancing. And we look at Colton Arnold as he attempts to get the pin right down there underneath us. I believe he mentioned to you last night, John, is he at 7?
He's at 7.
So 7 pins on the
number
season.
8, yeah.
So he's looking for number 8 as he's got the position on Anthony Miller.
Short time. Saved by the bell for Miller on that, yeah. He's going to get it, though. We'll get it in the second period here with, more time to spare, because consolation, you get, 1 minute first period, Jamie?
Yeah, 1 minute first period, 2 minutes in the second and in the third. The championship rounds are still 2-2-2. Consolations are 1-2-2.
All right, yeah. Here with Jamie Fausnight again, legendary community member here, not just with wrestling, but I think if you probably, like you said yesterday, you go around and ask kids in Stark County, they know who you are. You've been in their room enough that, like you were talking about, like the community coach, man.
Yeah, I've definitely worked with a lot of different kids. I like to do. I would hold an open practice once a week, free to everyone, and it was just a good way to get more kids for each kid to work out with. I'd average about 100 to 80 kids in the room, somewhere in there. And our room was big enough that we could work with that size kids in one practice.
So based on how things have been going so far, semifinals, consolation, how's the Hoover Vikings faring up in their tournament?
We have a young team with a couple injuries. It wasn't a great outing for the Vikings this weekend. We're down to one kid placing, Christian Friel. He looked really good this weekend.
Okay.
But sometimes it's just not the right week, and you go back to work, you go back to the drawing board, and you move on. That's what this tournament's for.
Well, getting
Coach is getting in there deep, man. Colton Arnold with a 5-0 lead here as we approach the 1 minute mark in the second period. So
I'm not tall enough to see what's going on over here. There you got it.
Oh, all right. Was that deep?
Deep enough.
That was deep dish right there.
Deep enough.
Yeah.
So Colton Arnold with the victory.
You got to get Pizza Hut to sponsor him.
Listen, we don't have Pizza Hut, man, but we got Lindsay's Pizza. So call them at 477-3800. I think Colton Arnold just earned himself a meat lover's pizza from Lindsay's. He's the Lindsay's Pizza heavyweight wrestler of the day.
Deep dish, baby.
Yeah. He got that one in there deep, man.
Yeah. Half. That was the Harry, me and Jim were talking about Harry Wuske half yesterday.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. Like, if that's textbook Harry. Jamie, are you familiar with Harry?
There's a
the legend. Yeah.
There's a terminology breakdown there. I don't know. I guarantee I know what the technique is. I don't know.
He was an old coach from Ohio University. That
okay.
Was, had the big, gigantic man hands.
Right.
And there's a famous photo. It looks like you've probably seen it before in wrestling rooms. It's similar to the Doug Blubog photo.
Right.
And, he's cranking a guy over, but his hand and wrist, I mean, that thing was, cranked around the guy's throat like a wrench. And that's where that came from. But Billy Barger used to, if you ever seen him at tournaments, he didn't say much.
Right.
But when he would say something, from that corner, he would say the Wuske. Yeah, but anyway,
we've had some exciting wrestling here. The semis have been exciting. We've seen some good kids win. You've seen some good kids lose, and then they come right back. That's another thing that's nice about tournaments like this. And this point in the season is you have to get started to be able to prepare to come back after a semis loss. That's one of the hardest things to do. Yeah. Come district time when you're trying to get to the state tournament, you have 1 hour to get over it and get back out on the mat and have one of the toughest matches of the day. If you lose in the semis, you're coming to wrestle a guy that just is on like a 3-match winning streak, and he's hot, and you just came off of a tough loss.
Right.
These are very big character matches. These Consti semis.
And then just to go back on Colton there, that listening in, if you've been following our conversation about him going after that pin record, that was pin number 8, TJ.
That's pin number 9 for him. He got an 8th one earlier.
That was 9?
So he's only got 27 more to go.
Wow.
So he's through the first quarter of it. But no, that was he had one earlier here this afternoon after he lost his first match, and that was number 8, and this was number 9 for him here over Anthony Miller. As we see Nate Tomasello down there coaching his CVCA guys. You mentioned about Bill Barger. We know some of his outstanding wrestler award winners from the Ironman, some of those guys that we had a chance to talk about last week. Nathan Tomasello back in 2012.
He was one, yeah.
Our guy that we had on, Joe Heskett, was 1995.
That's right. Joey.
Harry Lester, the only two-time recipient. Even more a guy you mentioned, John, you lost to the Villers in the state championship game, right? Jared Villers was the Bill Barger outstanding wrestler. You wrestled against the other, Nate Villers, right?
No, I wrestled Jared.
You wrestled Jared, okay.
Yeah, Jared was
very tough.
Very tough. Speaking of double F, TJ, before you came up here, Jamie was talking about what's that transition like when you're going from football to wrestling season, being a double seasoned athlete like that. And Villers was top of his game, man. He actually went to, I think, Northern Illinois University, full ride football.
Okay.
But
it is so difficult, especially if you do a deep playoff run. I remember a couple years back, it's quite a few now. I forget the kid's name. He was a returning state champ at like 215 from a Cincinnati school. I can't remember. Cincinnati Perkins.
Sandusky
And he was
Perkins,
Sandusky Perkins. I forget his name. He was a great wrestler.
I think I remember.
And he could barely get through the matches.
I remember that guy. Yeah,
he could barely get through the matches, and then give him a couple weeks, and he was right back to form. So it's tough when those guys have deep playoff runs, and then they got to go into Top Gun or Ironman. It's like first week of the season,
or this tournament.
This one you at least have a couple weeks.
At least you got something under your belt. Well, touch on that a little bit. We were talking about a little bit. What is the there's people say there's football shape and there's wrestling shape. What's the difference?
Well, you know what? The difference is the recovery time. In a football play averages like 3.5 seconds, 4 seconds or something like that. Then you have 20 seconds, 30 seconds of recovery time. The receivers and the corners are running a little bit more than maybe the linemen are. But like wrestling, there's no consistency in the recovery time. You could wrestle on the out of bounds line and go out of bounds 3 or 4 times in the first period and then come back and you kind of have that little bit of time. But you can go 2 solid minutes, and 2 solid minutes on a wrestling mat is murder if you're not prepared for it. I always tell this one story about conditioning, and it wasn't even about my win. I was wrestling at the Medina tournament. I think I was a freshman, and I was losing the match. I was down by 2, and the kid chose bottom, and I hit him with a cradle, and I got my 3 back points, and I held him in that cradle for every bit of a minute 45 seconds. And when I got it back in those times, the tournaments weren't computerized, so you had to go up and sign your name on the bout sheet. You remember?
Well, we were talking about that.
I went up to sign it, and I couldn't hold the pen. My arms were just shot, and like you can't prepare for that. You can't prepare that. Yeah. You just never know. And I wasn't even tired. I couldn't even pick up the pen. My hand was shaking. It kept falling out of my hand. It's just different.
So as we look in on a couple of these mats down here, we know that the number 1 ranked heavyweight in the state, Mr. Reese from Wadsworth, just got a victory over there on mat number 1.
Okay.
Minerva, Andy Strader at 126 was able to just get a victory over a Huntington wrestler out of West Virginia. Right here on the middle mat, a matchup of freshman Colton Rhodes, who we had a chance to talk to on In the Room with Jim Bostic the other day. He's going against Perry freshman Liston Seibert. Liston all over Colton at 12-0 right now. Now it's going to move out to 14-0. You got another Minerva wrestler, Connor Norris, a junior. And we're calling that mat number 2 over there, top right.
Yes.
So Jamie, is this blood round then, basically?
They're already placers.
They're already placers.
This is the Consi semis.
This is just determining if you're going for 3rd or 5th.
What you have here is the Consi semis, and you have the 7th and 8th matches.
Okay.
So the 7th and 8th, we place the top 8, but tonight at finals, you only have 1st and 2nd, 3rd and 4th, and 5th and 6th.
Okay.
So you have the Consi semis where the winner goes to 3rd and 4th, the loser goes to 5th and 6th, and then the 7th and 8th matches are going on now as well.
All right.
Another wrestler from Carrollton, Landon Jenkins. You guys were talking about him earlier, the junior. He's taking on Parker Pecor from Lake Catholic.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Landon Jenkins is a good friend of mine. His dad's a good friend of mine. I've taken him on Virginia Beach trips. A lot of these Carrollton kids I've worked with. It's funny. Landon was when I did weigh-ins yesterday. He came up and he got on the scale, and as soon as he turned his back, I moved his singlet out of the way and I put my initials on his back shoulder. And I was like, "Just remember, I got your back out there." So my initials are actually on his back. I think we might have started a new tradition. He actually came up to me this morning and pulled his shirt up. He's like, "Is it still there?" I'm like, "I got you, man. I got you."
Go get tagged up.
Got some fresh ink. Fresh ink at the holiday tournament.
Yeah. He's a good kid. He goes super hard. He's one of those kids that, another thing that makes our sport great. Landon Jenkins is the epitome of that. He's a small guy. He's not going to make the football team. He's a junior at 106. There was concern, when he was in 8th grade at like 65 pounds, like what are we going to do with him?
Right.
But he managed to grow into a 106 pounder.
Wow.
But this sport, there is, anybody can compete in this sport, and that's another thing that's great
the greatest
about it.
part. Yeah. Well, it's a fair fight. It's that's why we got the weight classes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right, and I'll tell you, it's been so fun watching him grow up, and some of the other guys. There's some other really tough Carrollton kids that are coming up. Levi Pigeon will be in this round.
Okay.
Josh Carmen, who wrestled Boots from Walsh, which was a really good semis match.
Yeah,
And,
we caught the end of that. Yeah.
I think Josh is a little under the weather. I'm not saying that made an impact on the match, but I'll tell you what, the flu bug is going around. I've talked to a lot of coaches.
It's been bad.
It's been bad lately, but
yep.
we have kids that are not going to miss it.
Do we know who this young man is that's being taken off on the cart here?
It looks like he has Jackson stuff on.
Matt Ford. They took it off the board, so.
Yeah, it looks like he had a polar bear hat on.
I'm
not
so,
sure,
yeah.
but
I saw the polar bear too. Yeah.
Shout out to him. Wishing him a speedy recovery as
Yep.
they've just got map 4 cleared now.
I didn't get any word on what happened with him.
Looked like they had his arm sling like in a sling, maybe.
Yeah.
So something
He must have came
shoulder,
down on
arm
his shoulder.
related. Yeah.
Oh, Landon Jenkins working the Splato over there. He's
Oh,
about to get back
wow.
points there.
That's a move.
It's ugly. It's ugly. It's not looking good for either guy. Oh, he's going to maintain control there, though. He's a good scrambler.
All right, so Coach, talk about Spladle. That's one of those moves that exciting to watch somebody hit or get pin somebody that way. What's another exciting one that
Well, it's funny. There's certain moves that you obviously don't spend a lot of time on. There's a million techniques. There's a time and a place for all of them. But you don't spend a lot of time on certain ones like that. So I joke around, and when I coached youth, I would call them snow day practices. When there was no school that day, and you'd only have about half the kids, you'd have about 10 or 12 kids, and you would teach a couple funky things like that. You teach maybe a spladle, you teach a broomstick,
right?
You teach some stuff like that, and if it works one time in their career, it was worth that one snow day that they showed up.
We're laughing. Ray McDonald, we're talking about him earlier.
Yeah?
He called that the Desperado series.
Oh yeah, I like that. Yeah,
I heard that last night as I went back and listened to the broadcast. Man, you were that was your new nickname, the Desperado.
Yeah,
because you were always so desperate every time.
I was hitting those broomsticks.
It was desperation every time you took the mat.
Well, what's really funny about those techniques is when you do them when you're desperate, they don't tend to work.
Right.
When you do them when the timing is perfect, and that's what it was made. It's really neat.
It's a timing thing.
And what is really cool about stuff like that
you can't force them. Yeah.
Those moves that are ancient that that have been around forever is like you'll see one in a season, and then all of a sudden you'll see it like multiple times in a year. Like one year you'll see like 10 spladles and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you'll see like 10 broomsticks in another season, and it's like it's funny how they come in and out of style from time to time.
That's true. Well, like the old Super Duck.
Yeah,
Those
absolutely.
Virginia Beach kids
Yep,
love hitting that. Yeah,
those kind of things they're really neat to see.
Yep.
Well, then you got to describe to me what the Peterson, which I heard you talking about yesterday, is Colton went in for it. And then really Colton's got his own different style of really just being the aggressor. Just wanting to go in there and bully guys around.
Yeah, he has a good feel for hips, and feeling guys' weight when they're on top of them, or even when he's pushing them around on his feet. But
you're talking Colton Arnold?
Yeah, Colton Arnold.
Yeah, especially with the big guys. Those moves are a little more available because those guys are a little more top heavy. They get on top a little higher. Their hips come up high, and moves like that tend to show themselves a little more. The little guys actually have to create space to get those types of Petersons.
They do,
And we refer to it as a fat man roll. A big heavyweight move where you hook the elbow and you just go.
Yep.
And there's the time and a place for all those.
It's all about that time and catching that elbow at the right time, and then also like I said, the opponent has to give you some momentum or space or something to make that happen, right? And yeah, Colton was he was trying for it first period with that opponent, and then he went down second period. I asked him. I said we go. What was the game plan there going in? You kind of like pre-calculate that because he ended up pinning the kid.
Yeah, they see it coming. Those big guys. It happens a little more. Hey, Landon Jenkins won that match there.
Just won a battle. Battle
2-1.
Looked like Parker was able to get a point there late in that third period, but. Yeah, great job by Landon Jenkins.
Got the Great House kid right underneath us from Lake. I'll tell you what, that's a great kid too. Super nice. He came to my room a lot too. His dad's a great guy.
He's going to wrestle James St. Clair out of Huntington, West Virginia in 132.
He's off and running. He's got a 2-point lead right now.
And mention again real quick, Jamie, that that these first periods are just a minute long, and
Right.
these consies. This is what
Right.
for 7th and 8th.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what this would be.
So you go 1 minute period at the beginning.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And that's standard for all wrestling tournaments. That's how
Okay.
they run sectionals, districts, and state.
Right.
It just cuts down the time and they can get all the matches in.
How does that change a wrestler's game plan?
Well,
going into the
I
match?
when I'm coaching and we go into the consies, I make sure that the kid knows. I don't care if it's the third round of consolation. Remember, 1 minute first period, let's go out and get that first takedown. You don't have as much time to go feel out mode, set things up. You want to go out and bang and attack and try to get that first takedown because the matches are shorter. So you do
Right.
want to set the tone early in that first period.
So it looks like Colton Arnold is going to take on Krennic from Olentangy.
Ooh.
And underneath there will be Atkins out of Huntington, West Virginia against Pletcher from New Lexington. So the winner of Arnold and Krennic will face off with those two. Anthony Miller is going to take on Means out of Wheeling Park.
All right, Wheeling Park still in it to win it, huh? They have a big tournament coming up as well, don't they, TJ?
Yeah, they do. And we know that Tim's going to be down there getting us some coverage on that. That same weekend, we're going to be up there at Medina. So we'll road trip up there, partner. Get you saddled in. Jamie, don't know what you got going on that weekend.
I'm going to a wrestling tournament in Medina, just coincidentally. I'll definitely be in Medina
right.
that weekend.
Here we go.
I look forward to it. That's one of my favorites. It's the greatest show in wrestling. That's the term that they use for it. A lot of these places, it's so fun just to go into these gyms. You have so many memories in them. I remember my brother taking me to the Medina Invitational when I was a little kid and watching guys from those old Walsh teams like Dan Leemaster and stuff.
Yeah.
When I saw Dan Leemaster win the Medina tournament, that was the day that I said to myself, I want to be a Medina champ one day.
No way.
Lee
Master.
And I'll tell you what, I got to tell you this too. My brother won the Medina tournament when he was in high school, and he's 14 years older than me, and our team took second. So my whole life growing up in a trophy shelf in my basement had the second place team trophy. That was taller than me, which doesn't say a lot. Don't get me wrong, but it was. I had a team team runner-up trophy in my basement growing up, and I just look at that Medina trophy.
That's cool.
That's just a great tournament.
That is a great tournament.
Yeah, you
get
come
the band
here,
back together, man. Hey,
yeah.
Does your dad still have that old gold van? We can all load up in that thing. If we pull up to MIT in that thing, man, here comes security, here comes Medina police. The bees are out, man.
And I'll tell you what, that's a great program, up and coming program too. Chad Gilmore is a good friend of mine. We wrestled in high school. He's done a great job with that program. They'll have some, and as a matter of fact, I think his son will be wrestling in it for the first time. His son's a freshman up there, so it's a family affair. There'll be lots of Gilmores up there, and that's a great wrestling family in the area too.
That is, yeah.
Up here on mat number 1, another guy that we had a chance to talk to this past week is Coach Micah Coleman of Louisville. Welcomed us into his room. Jim Bostic had a chance to interview Connor Novosel, who's taking on Mason Taylor out of West Holmes. That's a 113 matchup. Looks like Novosel is trailing 7-1 now in the second period. Underneath there on mat number 2, Jack Dinwiddie of Wadsworth, the sophomore, taking on Braden Halen of CVCA in 120. 3-0 lead for Dinwiddie of Wadsworth. On mat number 3, you've got Jack Lowe, a sophomore from Wheeling Park, taking on Ricky Holmes from Walsh. That's a 132 matchup in the first period, 0-0. And down here on mat number 5 underneath us, Antonio Hobbs of Benedictine taking on Joseph Riggs of Huntington. That's a 7-4 advantage in the second period for Riggs.
Well, and then Jamie was talking about what a team sport wrestling really is yesterday. I'm just looking here at the team race, and man, these matches in this round are important because Mount Vernon, they got 109 points at 5th place. Walsh is right in front of them with 114.5. You got Holt with 123, Louisville 133.
Let me correct that there from mat number 5. That was a 7-4 victory underneath us for Riggs. Now up on the mat, Austin Adams of Cleveland Central Catholic taking on Caden Russell of Dalton. The Dalton Bulldogs represented here in a 150-pound match.
A good showing for the Dalton Bulldogs.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you, we'll talk about that program going on out there. Every year, I think, with even through football, fall sports, all that, you just constantly see Dalton there.
Right. Well, I'll tell you this: they're not a school that we cross paths with a lot. For someone, just a different size school,
And it doesn't feel like it's so far away
Right,
from us.
right,
You know,
it's
I was like, I'll
not.
take a trip out to the
Yeah,
Darien just to get a
Darien,
couple of
yeah.
milkshakes.
Route 30, baby.
And I've in the lower levels, youth and middle school, over the last couple years, which puts these guys in high school now. I've crossed paths with them a few times, and I'll tell you what, they've had like some parents that are juiced up in the stands. They got kids that are going out and banging. Their coaches are into it. And you know that, in the next couple of years, you'll see them at places like this. So this was something I kind of saw coming to weigh-ins. I was like, nice, Downton's here. I don't really think that they've been here for very many years. This might be the first or second year they've been with us.
Well,
But it is nice to see another local program doing well.
Great show. And shout out to Johnny Foster, Downton State High School Wrestling Champion years ago. Johnny's involved with Perry's program, strength and conditioning for all sports.
Is he still bodybuilding?
He doesn't look any smaller to me.
Yeah,
No,
I
I
don't
was
know.
gonna say, man.
he's doing something. Yeah.
He's got those guys out there like Foxcatcher out at his farm, man. He's like,
I've heard
guys
good
just in there
things.
just banging out power cleans and squats.
Yeah.
I've heard good things, and I'll tell you, I've heard that he's good with their diet as well, which is an important factor in wrestling. To teach the kids how to maintain their strength while they're losing weight and getting and putting them through a grind of a weekend like this, how to keep their body, they get nutrition and all that stuff.
Oh, he's an expert at that. Yeah. That he helped my nephew Emil out a lot with nutrition, and even as when Emil left Perry's program and moved on to college, wrestling, he said he was still taking Johnny's advice. So
I imagine.
Yeah. But yeah.
Oh, this will be a good one over here on what is that? Mat 1. That looks like the Levi Pigeon and the Walsh kid. I forget his name.
Oh, here
So this will be a tough match right here, a Concy semi match.
Campbell.
That's right. He's lightning fast, long, lanky dude. Levi looks like he's trying to slow the match down on one knee.
Smart.
A lot of the Carrollton kids wrestle down there like that. The Pazook boys both did that.
Really?
Yeah. Benny was really good down there, and he would hit a fireman's carry from one knee. He would just attack and fireman's and dump them right from there. And these guys have all had the same coaches that the Pazook boys had. Ken Pazook is a legend down there. Their dad, he was the head coach for many years. Still involved. He was here yesterday.
So it looks like Caden Russell from Downton is going to trail here heading in to the third period, 5-3. So he's fighting. He's got the back right now underneath us. Again, we apologize, everybody watching us on our YouTube channel here where we're kind of angled. We got 4 mats in center focus for you, but these guys are kind of right underneath us.
And we are blessed with more greatness today. We got Ronnie Hepner here, head coach at Massillon Jackson Polar Bears.
Hey, how we doing, guys?
Hey, good. Glad to have you.
You're going to get in trouble putting that Massillon in there in front of that Jackson.
Oh, I know. That's a no-no around here.
Yeah. Watch out.
Now, this is some good stuff, guys. I love what you're doing here.
And it looks like Downton, Caden Russell going into the third period just took the lead now, 7-5. So these guys are banging away here. Austin Adams out of Cleveland Central Catholic.
Hey, Coach, we're here in this part of the tournament. How you guys faring up so far?
Not too bad. We got Colton Arnold left here. He's going to wrestle here in the Concy semis. We're a young team, but I'm really happy with a lot of things I saw today from our guys. So saw a lot of fight, and we learned a lot about this tournament, and it's kind of build back when we get back to practice here on Monday. So
okay, what's next for Jackson Polar Bears on the wrestling schedule?
We got the Wheeling Park Bulls coming up here in 2 weeks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a great
We were
tournament.
talking about that tournament. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's a great tournament. You get a lot of matches. We'll probably get 9 or 10 matches in 2 days. So
okay.
Looking forward to that one.
It's all about that experience and getting most mat time you can before the big show, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And after that, we got the Mommy base. We're trying to get prepped up for that. And so a lot of good things ahead.
It's a nice tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. It's our first year going, so we're excited.
Now, Coach, how long you been doing this for, coaching?
This is my 4th year as a head coach. I've been coaching for probably 10 or 11 years now.
Oh, wow.
Always with a great staff over there at Jackson. There's a lot of good assistants that help keep that program running.
Absolutely. I'm blessed with a lot of good mentors. Marcelli's a great guy. Knopf's a great guy. Talarczyk. So I got a lot of love for those guys.
Meisner.
David.
Oh, okay. I remember. Walt.
That's his son.
It's a son.
David's a great guy. He's actually coaching middle school at Northwest
Yes, sir.
right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's back with Coach Stats
Yeah,
where he started out. It's so
for
fun.
sure. They're doing a good job over there, bringing Stats back and the Kayla and
Yeah,
Torres
yeah,
back there.
yeah.
So
Wow.
they're doing some good stuff.
Yeah.
Those are
over
some
there,
names. That Stats was
Yeah.
tough,
Uh-huh.
man. Dan Stats, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yep.
Classy guy.
I've rumbled
and,
with him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a lot of fun.
he beat the daylight out of me and Villers when we were training for the high school national tournament.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He'd say, "Yeah, come on over. I'll put you through a workout." It was more like just like him,
Yeah, it's another great
Yeah,
coaching staff.
torturing us. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it made us better. Yeah.
Absolutely. You need that.
Did you get Brian Dolphed?
I got dolphed. Yes. Yeah. Many times. Yeah.
Sometimes that happens.
You know what, Dan? Sometimes it takes getting your ass kicked to kind of learn something. It's
In this sport, it absolutely does.
It does,
100%.
yeah.
You don't get good at this sport if you don't get beat on.
I think Dolph could have took me down with harsh language. I mean,
Yeah, sometimes Brian looks like the kind of guy who could kill you just by looking at you.
Hey, when we had a chance last week to catch up with Tim Anderson, who's been working with the Perry Wrestling program, I told him, I said, man, I don't know if you ever really knew this, but you kicking my ass for 2-3 years when I was on scout team at Ohio State was a big reason I ended up becoming an All-American football player.
Absolutely.
Paying those dues, having to try and block him daily in practice and getting tossed around. Then all of a sudden you go out there and play against somebody else. I was like, oh, this is pretty easy compared to that.
Absolutely.
So we take our lumps, man. We learn. We're going. Did I mention is Zach helping out too? Did you say Meisner?
Zach Meisner, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
He's our assistant head coach.
He was state champion Northwest.
He's state
at
champion
Jackson.
Jackson.
State champion
I
Jackson.
actually
Right,
mentioned
okay.
him yesterday.
Yes, you did, yeah.
Because to me, when I coached and I coached against Zach, I remember being at districts one time, and one of the guys, Todd Porter, came up to me at the repository, and he's like, "So who should I keep an eye out on? Who should I look for?" And I'm like, "I'm telling you right now, I would watch Zach Meisner, and I'll tell you exactly when, because he lost his junior year in the Concy semis to go to the state tournament in a war with a kid from Perry, and then when you get to the state tournament times, and coach knows this, is like you don't have enough kids to run a practice, so occasionally you'll just practice together.
Yeah.
And we went over to Jackson, right? We went over to Jackson, and he had just lost at the district tournament, so he was a junior. And I watched that kid train for the week. He just got eliminated. He's not competing the next day, and I saw the look in his eye, and I was like, that kid's going to wrestle at a super high level, and he made a fan out of me that day. And so he's always my example of the kid who only went to the state tournament one time, went out there and wrestled his butt off, and he won a state title one time. Most of these kids, they start wrestling when they're in first grade, and they've wrestled in state tournaments their whole lives. It takes them 3 tries at the state tournament to win a title.
Yep.
But it doesn't always happen that way. Zach Meisner is a perfect example of that.
He's a rare guy, man. He works his tail off, and he tries to instill that mindset in our room too, and talking about
train
same
insane,
thing.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Train
Train insane, and he only went there once, but got it done once. But he had to outwork everyone.
And he absolutely did.
Yep.
He's the proof of that strategy.
Absolutely.
Now him and his dad, they were coaching at
Northwest.
Northwest.
He was the head coach in Northwest
I
for a
thought
few
Did
years.
a great
and-
job at that program.
Yeah, he
had
did.
some really top tier
Costco.
guys.
Remember
Yep,
Costco?
Hunter
Yeah.
Costco.
Yeah. Shout out to Costco and his dad. Yeah.
Yeah, they were great. Here's another one of my Carrollton boys that I like a lot, Josh Carmen. I'll tell you what, he is such a nice kid, super hard worker,
He's awesome.
leader on that team, and he'll, no matter what, if we're in the same, I always tell people like this when you coach, like there's certain kids that you look forward to talking to and things like that, but when they're on the other team, the kids that find you, like go out of their way to come up and say, "Hey coach, how you doing today? It's good to see you." Josh is one of those kids that'll always go out of his way to say hello to me. And a lot of kids, they're teenagers. They don't just go up and talk to adults like that. So that's a kid that's going to be a successful adult, whether however wrestling works itself out for him, because he's just a good person.
100%. Like you say, he's a great leader. Carrollton's my alma mater, so I know these guys
Oh,
really
okay.
well. Yeah,
Okay.
so
that's cool, man.
great kid, like you said, and he's got a lot of aspirations himself. I think
Great
he's been
family.
a 2-time placer, and he wants to get a title here. So he's a hard worker and a great leader in that program. So.
All right.
He looks like a lost Pazook boy. He looks just like he really does look like he fell out of Ken Pazook's backyard,
Sure.
But he wrestles just like Benny and Aiden, and I really would like to see him at the top of the podium one day.
Coach, what year did you graduate from Carrollton?
2009.
2009. Okay,
Alright.
so you'd have just been right after Chad Hoover.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know Chad well, and Dustin's one of my best friends, one of the coaches. And
Yeah.
it's basically my coaching staff growing up, so
Wow.
got a lot of love for that program and the people in it.
So I used to tell people all the time, I said the best thing that ever happened to me was my parents getting divorced, because I was going to school at Malvern and I was like in a class of 42 kids. And then my parents get divorced and I go up to Glen Oak, and that's when I first met John. And I'm like, okay, I'm in the bigger pond now. Like there's some real athletes
Oh,
up here
yeah.
that are gonna push me. And no, but I have fond memories of growing up down there, and all my buddies from Minerva, and they're well represented here
Yeah, they're
today.
having a good tournament too.
We
Yeah.
dropped the Chaddock name earlier from Coach Ryan Riggs. You hear that name, and that's synonymous with this sport and sports all through Minerva School District. And shout out to all that they're doing down there. And I'll tell you what,
We got two Perry boys wrestling
see
each
that,
other.
yeah.
How about that?
I didn't catch. Did we get a final on the guys that were wrestling down there on mat 1?
Hey, I'm gonna dip off here, guys. I appreciate you guys
Yeah.
having me.
Thanks,
I love
Coach.
what you're doing.
Man, yeah.
Keep growing the sport. Thank
Yeah.
you, guys.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Good
Hey,
luck,
we'll
man.
stop out.
Yeah, we'll follow up with the coach. Yep.
Yeah, we'll stop out and check you out, man. Thanks, Coach. All right, good stuff. As we continue to roll along here on the 62nd annual Hoover Holiday Wrestling Tournament, want to give a shout out to a couple of our special sponsors, especially one of them right here in the North Canton community. When you're looking for your home, auto, life, and financial service needs, stop down and see our friends at C.H. Vallis and Associates at 1302 South Main Street right here in North Canton. Call them at 330-494-2776 for all your home, auto, life insurance needs. A staple in the North Canton community for over 75 years. Also, these broadcasts on the Start Media YouTube channel brought to you in part by our friends at Hilsher Clark Electric Company, Eagles FOE number 190, finally HereOhio.com, McNeil & Sons Tree Service, Lindsay's Pizza, and our friends at Leathernecks Nation MC. And got to, real quick, since we just had the Jackson wrestling coach on, talk about our friend Chris McCready's over at finally HereOhio.com. Him and his team have over 30 years of experience, and if you or someone you know struggles with hearing, go to their website at finallyhereohio.com and get a free hearing evaluation. Call them at 492-1212 or stop down and see them at 1201 30th Street Northwest in Canton and tell them the Stark Media team sent you.
Heck yeah.
Well, we had our final North Canton kid just compete right here. I think he just finished with an 8th place finish. Christian Friel, a sophomore. This is the type of that I talked yesterday. One of those weight classes where it can springboard the rest of your season.
Yeah.
Christian coming in, wrestling great, and placing at this term, actually being the only placer on the North Canton team.
You see him too, man. He's gassed over there.
He works hard. And Christian's one of those guys, just natural little muscle head, so he gets tired fast because he's carrying a lot of muscle down there. And he's such a nice kid, and he tries so hard.
Well, that's good to see. Yeah, glad to see guys like that finish strong.
Yeah, just a
and
sophomore and a
come
big
back
man.
in.
He's
Yeah.
undersized. He's weighed in at 160. He was wrestling 165.
Oh,
Sophomore
Good to
place.
see that. Yeah.
How are you, Coach?
Hey, good to
All
see
right,
you,
let's
Jamie.
welcome
All right.
in Coach
Bless
Brian
the
Baum, the
greatness.
North Canton Hoover Viking head football coach. Coach Jamie was just mentioning Christian Friel. Now, he played for you this year, right?
Outstanding. Yeah, he's a linebacker, running back, played in all our special teams. He won our scout team player of the week. And you saw the attitude, or scout of the year, saw the attitude and effort he brings in wrestling. Same thing with football. He's a nonstop kind of guy. I know he lost that one, but
He's a
nonstop.
goer.
Yeah.
He's a goer. Christian will do exactly what you ask of him,
Coach, you had a few wrestlers on the squad this year, man. Talk about some of those other guys. I know that AJ Dolph, I know he's not out here today. I believe he's banged up, right? I thought when he came into the ball game for you, especially early in the season, kind of just trying to cut his teeth as a young guy in the secondary, making some plays on defense. He was an impact player for you, wasn't he?
Absolutely. He's athletic enough to cover people. He's also an excellent tackler. He's a wrestler. He understands that tackling, that leverage, and he's a great guy. We lost him for 5 weeks, came back in the playoffs, did a real good job for us, and that same injury still holding him out of wrestling though right now.
Gotcha.
I'm a bit of a North Canton Hoover football fan myself, and what was a lot of fun about this year's team was there was a lot of second generation kids. This class there was a lot of Hoover history out on that team. You have the Dolphs and the Ashbys and there's other ones. They have the Roach family as well. I know there's one that I'm leaving out that I'm upset about, but it was just a really fun year to watch Hoover football, and they were young. We got most of those guys are coming back, so it'll be exciting for the future.
One guy I'm interested to hear about. missed a little bit of the season early on for you, but when he came back in was an impact guy. And it was cool that we just got a chance to see Anthony Miller and Colton Arnold, both sported number 79 in the fall on the football field. Both were huge parts of the offensive defensive lines for their respective teams, the Blue Streaks and the Polar Bears, two teams that you saw frequently there inside of the Federal League. But a guy like Brady Sullivan, Brady, for his age, just one of the naturally strongest dudes you're going to come across. I mean, his strength, and when I saw him and covered your guys' games and saw him at the 3-tech spot, I mean, he just presented so many challenges. And, typically us offensive line guys, we're going to double team a dude. We've got the advantage, right? Well, not when a lot of those guys were going against Brady Sullivan.
No, you brought up his natural strength, but for that size, he's 260, 265. He's an athlete. He can do a backflip. This kid's just an incredible athlete. It's a shame he's not out here wrestling. He's still dealing with an injury from football, and we look forward to getting him back because he is a lot of fun to watch in the mat. As you're talking about being a 3 technique or a tight end on the football field,
it was great to me because I grew up watching like the Seagal movies and the Von Damme movies, Bloodsport, right? So you guys are playing over there at Jackson. Nice victory, by the way, there in rivalry week. That's why we had you follow up the Jackson wrestling coach that just came on. But Brady Sullivan came up off the bottom of the pile. He's on his back, and he flips his legs back and just
Did it kip up?
Unbelievable. And I'm like,
wow.
This dude is a huge 3 technique, but you could just see the athleticism. It was it was a wow moment for me, and it was at the end of the play, and he's just coming up off the pile. It was,
and they're, to have strength, to have athleticism, he also has balance and flexibility. You don't see, heavyweights who, they grab a leg or something, their arm gets twisted way behind. Most of those guys will just go to their back. He has a natural flexibility in his shoulders and his knees. He's just an all-around athlete. I just hope that Brady one day he stays out of his own way and he can get to all the places that are there in front of him.
And only a junior this year, right? He's going to be back for you again next year.
We get him back here, so we're excited for that.
Well, there's some great things going on here inside of North Canton City Schools. And again, we want to shout out Tom Oakes, all that he does for his student athletes, athletic director here, getting us set up in the catbird seat up here as we're checking out the 62nd annual Hoover Holiday Wrestling Tournament. Some great action going on, and we're going to be here through the finals. I believe they'll get that started about 5:45, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Coach, question for you. But going into next season, what are some of the things that you guys do, like postseason or after season, to prep for the next season with the returning players?
We'll have our meetings and whatnot, but a lot of it's weight room time, and we want to push those guys in other sports. Make sure you're lifting, doing your thing out there. And, it's real exciting. This time to watch, as we mentioned, our football players that are wrestling or playing basketball. We love to watch them do that, and then we get them when they have their season off in the weight room. But in the spring, we got a lot of guys that are in lacrosse, baseball, and track, and it's an emptier weight room. They have to get there, find their time on their own sometimes.
That's where you find your leaders.
Yep, we want guys competing out there.
Yeah. What's the first official 2-a-day, or when does that happen about usually?
We'll get started in July with those camp days, those mandatory camp days.
Okay.
All June's lifting and running. And then we'll get after it, I'm guessing August 1st or July 31st. One of those 2 days will be that first day, and we'll get after it full throttle. Everyone knows we moved that schedule up, so you scrimmage at the end of the first week. I can't stress that, and you never feel ready, but it is what it is, and you preview, and then the next week you got games. So 3 weeks after you start, you're playing.
It felt like such a marathon this year. I felt fortunate that I was able to call the last Ohio High School Athletic Association game of the year with Glenville and Wyoming. That was the Saturday night D4 game. But to think how early the season started with 16 weeks, even earlier this year, it was like middle of August. It was like, man, these guys have been going a really long time. And it kind of carried over to our question about how some of these guys get into match shape after they've been into playoffs, and you're trying to get whatever the difference is, if it's conditioning, if it's, just if you've ever been in the circle before and you've gone one-on-one for 6 minutes, what it takes away from you is different than, I guess, what you would call a 4-quarter football game, right?
Absolutely. You're constant. Just talk about wrestling. It's constant.
Yeah.
Football, long plays 12 seconds. That's a long play.
That's a long play.
That's a long play, yeah.
I'll tell you, realistically, it's this. You have to compete. That's how you get into shape. Well, I remember, when I would run my early season practices, we would run the kids in this long hallway down here. It's a long hallway. I counted the tiles. It was like 90, and there are 90 tiles. And they're like a yard, and they're huge. And we would do down and backs, and we'd run them to death. And they would come out on the mat, and they still weren't in the right shape. They have to get out here, and they have to compete. And that's where like it almost doesn't matter the deep playoff run with football because they're just missing stuff that they do in practice anyway.
Right.
You know, the conditioning part of it. They actually have to come out here and compete and like I said yesterday, get out of their comfort zone for a while and grow that comfort zone around them so they can compete in a tournament like this where they're going for five matches in a day in a weekend and things like that. Coach Baum, I remember the other one, the other family, and I feel terrible. But I'll tell you what, one of my favorite guys on the team is Zach Brocker. That's another guy.
man.
That's another kid. Not only is he explosive as all get out, but he's another kid, like I said about Josh Carmen. If I walk into around the football field and Zach sees me, he comes over and says, "Hey, Coach, how you doing?" He smiles and gives me a hug. And like he's from a great family. His dad was a quarterback back in '85 for our state finalist team. And there's just a lot of really cool kids in that or families in your program right now. It's exciting to watch.
That's going back to the Andy Logan days, man, back in the mid 80s.
Oh yeah.
No, I'll tell you what, Coach, when I came out there and I was doing some film on you guys early in some of your workouts before 2-a-days, the pads came on. I remember going past you and saying, "Who's the kid wearing number 10?" I'm like, damn, this kid's going to be good. I mean, you could tell right away. You don't get a whole lot of sophomores that walk out on the football field and you're just like, wow, this might be the best dude on the field right now. And Zach, I think, kind of commanded some of that respect by the end of this season.
Absolutely.
I think he's put himself into that category, going to be ready to come back for a strong junior season. A guy I would like to get a little opinion from you on here, Coach. I saw that Matt Galimo from Green just got a victory over the kid from Dalton. He's a kid that you faced a lot, played in the middle part of the defense, linebacker, would kind of rush the passer a little bit, didn't really put his hand down in the dirt, but was a tough defensive player for the Green Bulldogs.
Yeah, we had to know where he was that week, and he was in our preparation, so he did a nice job all year for them.
And it looks like on mat number 2, Josh Jordan at 150 from Lake is going to take on Hunter Randolph from Walsh.
I think Jordan just pinned him.
Looks like Jordan got the pin. And then right underneath us here, Anthony Miller from Lake as well, the big offensive lineman in the 285, the heavies here. He's going to take on Hunter Means from Wheeling Park. That's fresh into this first period. About 45 seconds remain, still scoreless. 2 points now going to go the way of Means.
You brought up Dalton. I've been very impressed with Dalton. They did not have wrestling not that long ago. And what the coach has done in a short amount of time with the athletes they've had out there, they've really done a nice job. And, being an alumni from there, to see them come out and compete in a tournament like this is very impressive.
We actually brought that up before you came up here, that they are having a great showing.
Yeah, it oftentimes feels, when we talk about covering the Stark County area, like Dalton, Carrollton's, the West Branches, Salem's, they kind of feel like they're part of Stark County, but just being on the outskirts there. And, I think, it's great that they're doing some good things out there. I remember back when Doug Phillips, who's the head coach at Youngstown State, was there as, I believe, as principal for a while. And came on, Coach Jim Tressel brought him down as one of our quality control assistance guys. And we had a really good conversation this past week about those quality control guys that are really basically run your scout teams. And for Ohio State, I mean, some of the guys that have rolled out of there, the guy up there, PJ over at Minnesota, he just got an extension with them. Some other good guys like Mike Tressel, who was a Frank Broyles Award winner. Coach Doug Phillips doing great stuff up there at Youngstown State.
YSU.
Yeah.
Youngstown boys.
Well, if I'm surrounded by all these football people, I have to ask, what are our thoughts about Ohio State and Georgia? What are our thoughts about that? I know what my thoughts are. The best opportunity for us is to play Georgia with 4 or 5 weeks to prepare for them. But what are your thoughts, Coach? You see things at a different level than I do, that's for sure.
You need to create turnovers and not turn the ball over. I know every coach says it, but if they can create some turnovers, get Georgia to second guess some things, they put themselves in a position.
All right.
Yep. Pull out all the stops, man. I mean, and for me, a lot of people are like, oh, I wouldn't want to face Georgia. Well, like, why wouldn't you want to hold court with the best? Like, if you're number one, I want to face you right now. I want to see what you're all about. Let's let the chips fall where they may. Let's put our best performance out there. And, CJ Stroud took a lot of flack for some things he said after the Michigan game, and really Ohio State's played 2 bad quarters of football. So at that point, it's like, you figure this stuff out. You've had 4 or 5 weeks now. But for me, it's been tough because I've watched this offensive line and everybody says how great the tackles are and this and that, but they've just throughout the first part of this year and it's trickled down all throughout the season. Some of the fundamental stuff, just footwork, hands, leverage, all the stuff that's the stuff we teach on day one, right?
Yeah.
Play with low pads, have a base. And your second step not crossing over. I'm like, wow, you get guys at Ohio State that are doing this. I'm like, that's not good, because when you're crossing over your step and you've got a All-American defensive tackle for Georgia,
Right.
you could be in some trouble.
You're playing equal talent like that. Those mistakes are just magnified. So
No
you got to
doubt.
be on everything and go back to the fundamentals. I'm sure they're working on that this last couple of weeks.
And there's still kids, I was not a grown man when I was in college. I didn't make grown man decisions. There is a scenario where Georgia could be looking past us and think they already have a national title team. They don't have to go through Alabama. They don't have to do this. They don't have to do that. It just takes that one quarter to come out. I mean, I remember when Coach Tressel beat the Miami Hurricanes. It was the same thing, that we didn't have any business on the field with that team until all of a sudden we meant business on that field that day. I love that aspect of coaching is, I give me the underdog team every day, twice on Sunday, and I'll talk those kids up and have them ready to go. That's my favorite.
Coach Brian Baum joining us here on the 62nd annual Hoover Holiday Wrestling Tournament. Appreciate you stopping by, Coach. And it's fun for you, as you mentioned, Christian Friel. So he'll take 8th place.
Yeah.
Okay. It's got to be fun for you to be able to watch your guys compete now and transition into the winter sports. And I guess the age-old question: do you promote your guys, play as many sports as possible? Is so many kids I think now are like, oh well, I'm going to go to college for this, so let's just specialize in this and let's just be a wrestler, But to me, I mean, having a 3-sport athlete, I mean that's a person that you're just built a little bit different, right?
Absolutely. We go back to that. Like, we want you competing. I know Jamie mentioned that competition thing. I don't care what you're playing. If you're competing, your mind's sharpening, your body's sharpening, you're going after, you're getting after, you're going to be a better football player. We'll find time to get in the weight room.
Yeah.
We got to get you out there competing. And, hey, I talk about in the spring, if you're not a skilled athlete to play lacrosse or baseball, get your tail out to the track. You can get faster, you can get stronger. We can do some things out there. So in the winter, it's around here, it's, our wrestlers and our basketball.
More often,
we have swimming too, but not a lot of them play football.
More often than not, when a 16-year-old kid looks at you and says, I'm going to focus on this, he spends a lot more time on the couch than focusing on that.
Right.
You'd actually rather him do even a sport that, even if it's bowling, that it's not conditioning, it's just mental sharpness, even if it's just that. In the Fausnight house growing up, it was a game of Connect 4 was dangerous. We were serious about everything we competed. And I was the youngest by a lot, so I didn't win ever. So you get competitive by doing things like that. You'd rather have them do something rather than when they say they're going to focus on baseball or something like that. Rarely do they spend all that time that they would have on the football team devoted towards the baseball.
Right.
This is a hell of a match going on here on mat number 3, 165-pound Brendan Bartlett from Wadsworth, a senior, taking on Geiger from Walsh. John, you were talking about him. This was 4-4 going into the second period, and Bartlett was able to get 8 points in that second period, add another 2 on here in the third with 1:25 remaining, and he's up 14-4.
When you look down and you see Wadsworth against Walsh and you think, on a mat like that, you think to yourself, that could be a district match. That could be one that kid wins and he goes to the state tournament. Yeah, very likely. You get to this level of this stage of the tournament and you see Wadsworth kid wrestling a Jackson kid or a Perry wrestling I'm trying to think of one that's just I keep just mentioning our league teams around here, but there are a lot of kids here that will compete in districts in February to get to the state tournament here in North Canton, which is another great tournament that we host in the district tournament. To me, the district tournament is my favorite thing in sports. The day 2, I've said this to you before, the day 2, when you have the semi matches and then straight into the consi matches, you have 14 weight classes, 2 matches apiece. That's some over 50 matches consecutive between consis and semis where the winner makes it to the state tournament, and you can just feel the room start to buzz, sometime around like 126, a kid will get a pin and then you'll get an explosion out of this side of the gym, then an explosion out of that side of the gym. And then it's just some of the most fun. You go out and then you go out in the hallway and you see people's, dreams and just come to life or get crushed out there.
A lot of emotion.
And for guys like me who just coach all the time, I remember a kid from Austintown Fitch sitting in the hallway one time, and he had a great match against us during the season. He played great in the football game against us. His name was Chime, and I sat down with him and I'm like, "Are you okay?" And I just had a conversation with a kid I never met before, and then
Cool.
that relationship was built from then on. And he lost early day one. Then he comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, coach, I won again." Nice, keep it up. Then he comes out, "I won again, coach." Next thing you know, he's wrestling at the state tournament. And anybody can help a kid. Wrestling is so different. It's not about like what team you're on. I need to do a better job of making sure I don't have a kid in that weight class sometimes. But if a kid needs help, you just help them, and that's what's really fun about it.
Question for both of you, because both of you guys do a lot with these kids at this level and this age. What is the approach, or what's is there a better approach? Is it better to be more like a Jason Brown, approach, like from Indy University, or is it better to be more laid back and sophisticated with your approach? Or
well, me personally, it depends on the kid.
Yeah.
Personally, it depends on the kid. I can go and scream my butt off at a kid that needs it.
Okay.
Or you can't do that with Christian Freeman. That's a kid you got to reel back in, get him breathing, calm him down. Look, you're fine. You got to talk him off the ledge. Then you got another kid like, an Alex Bosky. You got to talk to him like it's a completely different way. It really depends on really the type of kid you're dealing with and where you're at in the moment of a tournament like that.
Okay.
If it's a day one loss, it's a different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a semis loss where you have 45 minutes and you got to go wrestle to go to the state tournament again after a loss, and you're wrestling a kid on a 3-match winning streak, those conversations that you have to do it on your toes, because it's just there's so many variables and it's so unique situation every time.
Gotcha.
I'm sure you have a response to that too. I'm sorry if I went crazy on that one, but I'm passionate about that kind of moments with the kids.
Yeah, no, those individual conversations are unique to the individual, absolutely. And football's intensity. There'll be times where I bark at someone on the sideline, and I got to come in. I need to go love them up right away. Right. I need to let it sink in on that individual. Okay. And you learn your athletes. A good coach learns his athletes, just like Jamie was talking about.
Very good.
Just got to tell him stop jumping off sides, man.
Yeah.
I don't want this Coach Baum coming out of me, but watch the football.
Amen. I'll lose my mind on the stands. You're lucky that they don't walk by me in those moments too.
All right, over on mat number 2, Crevar from Walsh Jesuit just got a victory, and so now we have over on mat 1, 150 pounders, Jake Keim of Wadsworth leading Quentin Vellis of Wheeling Park 5-0. On mat number 2, 190-pound, Cohen Grimm, a senior from Wadsworth, 0-0 between him and Luke Mullins, a freshman out of Mount Vernon. And on mat number 3, 175-pound, Sam. Oh, well, that just score system just cut out on me. Let's go ahead and reload that.
Oh, here you go. I'm back on it. You said it's Sam Lotney from New Lexington.
Sam Lotney from New Lexington taking on the junior Kyler Howard from Mount Vernon. That's a 2-1 advantage for New Lexington. So Sam up in that match. And Coach, it's been fun having you on. I know one sport that you mentioned here real quick. Got to talk about 2 guys before you get out of here. You mentioned lacrosse and really how that sport has taken off as well. And Sean Cavanaugh and Mitch Gregory, those were guys that played a big role for you this year as well. Talk about those 2 guys and their personalities and how they may have transitioned with that sport of lacrosse. I think I even joked with you at times, when we were talking before some games, when I went out and watched lacrosse, I'm thinking, man, these guys are going out here with no pads and they're coming across the middle and these people are just beating them with these sticks. I'm thinking to have the discipline to be able to not want to just punch somebody in the face after they check you with a stick coming across the middle. Those guys were some pretty good players for you this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And they compete and they're good at their respective sports. So they bring that confidence, that leadership over from lacrosse into football. They were in our secondary. Cavanaugh played receiver. He's not a big kid, but he blocked his tail off. And it's just one of those guys out there just gives all he has because, again, they're competing in the spring. And, again, confidence. Confidence goes a long way.
Mitch Gregory, I've coached against him when he was a little kid. He's always been a kid that'll come up and stick you. He'll put a hit on you. And I've always liked watching him play football.
Yeah, I go back to his freshman year. Perry had a play. I was probably their down play or their buck, and they ran him over. They went back to the next play. He came up. He stuck the kid. They came up to it again. He stuck the kid. He made 3 tackles in the next 4 plays, and I was like, that's a tough kid. Yeah. He learned from his mistake. He kept coming up there. He was going to play varsity football for us soon, and he sure did.
cool.
It's
to
not
hear
easy that first time you get rolled in that wing tee.
No, they
You
caught
got-
him on that one. And I said,
They'll get you.
let's see how he
Gut check
responds.
time.
Yep.
Gut
You,
check.
you can see it in scout team as many times as you want until they're really coming at you with it, and
Oh.
and you don't even see the ball until that guard's coming around the corner with trying to knock your teeth out. I was an undersized defensive end. My first game was against that wing tee, and I thought I really did understand it until all of a sudden those two guards come running at me, and it was and actually once I understood the wing tee, it was one of my favorite defenses or offenses to play against.
Yeah.
Once I watched film and all that stuff by my senior year, that it is a great place to play defensive end or linebacker against, because you're going to make a lot of tackles, or you're going to lose really bad.
I remember a guy from around this area for Perry who was a pretty good wrestler as well, Joe George. And
I remember
Joe, they would give him the handoff. They would give him the handoff, and then finally, when I figured it out and I break through there and I tackle him for about a 2 or 3 yard loss, I remember looking in through his face mask and he would just be laughing. There's no football, and there goes the quarterback around the outside edge for like 35 yards. I'm like, damn.
Coach Wakefield always had a knack for setting the plays up with that wing tee. And I mean, I've coached youth football for a long time, and they teach that wing tee to those kids from when they're in second grade. They start running that stuff. And ever since he came back from Mount Union, his wing tee's on steroids. It's not the same wing tee that I talk about that I played against. That's a different wing tee. Good luck, coach.
Wing tee.
It's absolutely not the one that I remember.
It's all natural,
it's
all right?
nasty. It's nasty.
Before I get out of here, I do want to call out the Mansfield Madison team that's here. They've had some nice wrestlers, but their head coach is Brian Mosier. When I was a DC out there, he played D-line for us and guard. He went down to Liberty University, started for 4 years at the guard spot with one of our other teammates. But to see him out here and what he's done with his program, that says a lot. But he was a heavyweight wrestler in high school.
Oh, cool.
He played guard. He transcended that into a scholarship at Liberty and had a nice career down there. And when they were coming up to recruit Luke Van Est a few years ago, I brought up, hey, Mike Gotzel, Brian Mosier, and they said, hey, their work ethic is one of the things that we credit to help propel our program to where it is now. And it was just one of those things to hear about one of your former players. That was great. So he's doing a great job with his program, and to see those guys and see him out here, I'm real proud of him.
Coach, you had Mansfield Senior on the schedule this past year, right? Who are some teams out of conference, out of the Federal League that you guys know you'll be facing this year coming up?
We'll start off with Bookdale again. We'll do them next few. We want to see that challenge up front. We have a home and home. We'll play them at home. So week 2 will be Hudson this year.
Okay.
Wow.
So we got Hudson. So we have a nice challenge weeks 1 and 2. Week 3, a Canadian team. We were kind of in a bind this year, and we tried to replace, but when they went to the no points, we were not able to get any bites out of that one and to get out of that contract. So we'll have them week 3, and then week 4, Louisville and the Fed.
Oh, nice.
That is a nice out of conference schedule.
Yeah.
I love Akron Bookdale. I love that team.
team,
There's you don't come across that many city teams that have that much pride in their community, that have pride in their football, and Bookdale is definitely a proud community, and they bring some real players. They bring some real players when they show up.
Yeah, they're a nice challenge for us to help get ready for the league. And I said that Hudson game will be a great challenge as well.
All right.
Yeah, we had a chance to see Bookdale as they took on West Branch this year, and I was impressed, man.
Yeah.
There were some guys up front. They were just absolute studs. They got a nice quarterback, Stevie Diamond. I think he'll be back this year. So, yeah, you got some challenges ahead for you. And, it was interesting to me before when I played at Glen Oak, Hudson was like that was a week 1 game for us, right? We knew it was a good tune-up game. You didn't expect to lose it. You didn't expect it to be close. And then I come back from high school or from college. I'm like, wow, Hudson's like qualifying for the regional finals almost every other year.
right.
Like, what's going on up here? So that's those are some good opponents for you to get a good gauge and test early. And we see here on mat number 3, Cody Fair from Massillon taking on Luke Raines from Smithville, and up top there above them on mat number 1. That's Hunter Dietrich of Minerva, the sophomore, taking on Ty Hafke of Holt.
I'll tell you what, Hudson comes to our district tournament. They bring some wrestlers too.
They do.
There's some
They
tough
got
kids.
Osgood up there helping out.
Yeah,
Mark Osgood, shout out to him.
Yeah, there's some tough kids up there. I think that's just a community that's grown over those amount of years that you're talking about. More homes have gone in.
Yeah.
There's more students in the school, and then you can compete at a higher level. Numbers is everything. Numbers is what makes really good football teams, especially.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
Quick victory for Cody Fair.
He's a good-looking kid.
Yeah. Quick question for Coach here. Real serious one, actually. I've been thinking about while we've been talking. Coach, lot of good football movies out there. What would you recommend the most? What's your like most number one, your go to that like pumps you up before a game, or you tell your athletes, hey, watch Rudy this week, or what is it? What's
Not Rudiger.
I'll be honest, they're kind of hard to watch, for real football. But when I was younger, the program, the program.
I was biting my tongue. I was biting my tongue. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. I still quote
that movie. Came out when I was a junior in high school. I saw it like 17 times in the theater with my buddy Brian Weimer. What up, Brian Weimer? That was our favorite movie. We quote that. We never did some of the stuff. I don't even want to say what they did in the locker rooms before the games, but we never went quite that far. But absolutely, and it's funny you mentioned it. Because I don't like a sports movie unless the sports are realistic. Right. And if it's not good, then I can't get into the movie, And the program to me was actually for a college level movie that it looked so realistic, every scene in it, But Remember the Titans is a great one too. That's a great one too.
Absolutely.
I know
those
are my top two.
I know where TJ stands. He's a Rudy guy all day.
No, Sean Crable was my Alvin Mack when he was walking up in the A gap. He was that guy that got my mama. No, those are great movies, man. Any Given Sunday was a go-to for me, man. Okay. We always watched Any Given Sunday. That one kind of had that program feel, kind of let you know what the league was like. And
yeah. Well, it showed. He had like the helmet cam. I mean, it showed the impact and everything. Yeah.
I'll tell you another one. All the Right Moves was a great one. It's an older one. All the Right Moves with Tom Cruise, and Greg T. Nelson was the coach on the team.
All the Right Moves.
Yes,
okay.
That was a great high school football movie.
Yeah.
It was a great one. They were going for a state title, small school in PA. It was that was another one that I really liked a lot.
What about old Varsity Blues? That was
it wasn't bad. I like the one. See, it's funny. It's almost like the same way. Like you ask me, like who's better between LeBron and Michael Jordan? It's funny because. Like Michael Jordan, I watched when I was becoming an athlete. He inspired me. LeBron, I watched after and I was an adult, so I appreciated watching him. The movie Varsity Blues, I was past that point. I was never going to play football again, and I was like, it was cool. I needed that when I was 17. Yeah. It didn't do it for me like those other ones in that same way. Like it was cool, it was entertaining, but I don't think that necessarily would have been definitely in my rotation when I was on a Thursday night before a football game.
How about that as we get ready to see Colton Arnold go over there on mat number 1. Hunter Dietrich, the sophomore from Minerva, was trailing Ty Hafke of Holt and was able to get the pin there late in that 3rd round. So good job by the young kid from Minerva.
Wow.
Actually, didn't get the pin. I believe right as time was getting ready to expire, he was able to get 2 points, and he was trailing 4-3, would win that 5-4. So now Colton Arnold's up. The big fella from Jackson taking on Micah Krennick of Olentangy. He's just a sophomore. So Colton, you're going to look to get to the double-digit mark here on the pins. We'll see what he's able to do with the young sophomore, torquing him a little bit.
He's going for that number 10.
Looking for number 10.
Yep. And I'll tell you what, this heavyweight division is going to be a tough district.
It's loaded.
It's going to be a tough one.
31 out of 32.
You look at the Reese kid from Wadsworth, ranked number 1. There's a tough match for anybody.
And
Faulkler's going to have
Aiden Faulkner was a kid that was in my room every week in those Tuesday practices. Aiden's a great kid with a great family, and that's a kid who is a wrestler.
Yeah,
he's not just a heavyweight; he's a real wrestler. And there's a couple of them in there. I don't know if Brady will be back in time for that. It doesn't sound good with his knee, but there's 4, 5, 6 kids that are legit kids. And this is when you as a coach, you kind of might want to have a talk with a kid like Colton. Maybe the pin record isn't so important because you're going to be in deep water that day. If you're used to wrestling 2 periods all the time, and then all of a sudden you're staring at Aiden Faulkner with 30 seconds left and you're down by 1, you got to have juice in that tank. You don't. I would, when I have a kid that's wrestling at a high level like this, I tend to tell them I don't want any first period pins.
Pressure.
There he's looking for that Peterson again. But
he has a great feel for that body position.
He can still get it if he grabs that wrist that's on his head.
That's
it's
right.
Still there.
There it is.
That's not a Peterson. That's the Fat Man roll. Those are the 2 differences.
The water.
But it works. It works. He hit it perfectly.
I think Varsity Blues, he called it the oop de oop.
Yeah. Yeah, we were joking with him when we were
He's
here for
got
the
the
Stark
butcher,
County
this one.
preview that
Needs to get his head on
I
the
was
other side.
nicknaming him the alligator because he was giving up his back to be able to roll those guys, and it just flipped him over. So that's an ambitious move.
That's number 10.
So there you go. 10 in the book. He's a 10. There you go. Varsity Blues, man. That's a perfect segue.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So shout out to Colton Arnold getting his 10th pin of the season. There you go. 5s from Dad. You got double 5s. Colton's allowed to have dinner tonight. Hey, and Latimer, seat at the table.
Right.
Colton just earned a seat at the table tonight.
Gets to play that Xbox.
But I'm serious. That's a conversation that I'd have. Maybe we want to go for the pins in the second period and keep your conditioning going, because those kind of things catch up with you. And you can have such a great season, but nothing matters until you reach the goal that you're really aspiring for.
Calculate all that.
Yeah, you got to be in the right spot.
Jim, you're spot on with that approach. Yeah.
Well, when I was a kid, I was in 6th grade. I wasn't allowed to pin kids in the first period. My brother made sure I had to get 3 takedowns. If I pinned him in the first period, I got in trouble. I'd get yelled at right on the mat.
They put the restrictor plate on.
It helped me. You know, I wrestled twice as much as I would have. You know,
Right. You wrestle more than you're going a full match, full 6 minutes. Yeah.
I was allowed to pin him in the second.
Looks like Zane Pletcher from New Lexington was able to win that final match over there with the heavies, able to beat Matt Atkins of Huntington.
This is the not so glamorous part of hosting your own tournament right here.
Yeah.
The moving of the mats.
Yeah.
This is where I'm really glad. This is the time where if somebody asks me, what do you think about not coaching? Like, absolutely love it right now, watching them roll up those mats and tear it all down and all that stuff that finish the day. It's a lot of work that goes into putting on something like this.
All right, guys. Coach Baum, appreciate you stopping up and rocking with us, man.
James.
Always best of luck to you in your off-season work, man. Keep up the great work, and
we'll get you a copy of a Rudy Rudiger poster. All right.
We'll look forward to seeing you and catching up with you here in the off-season, seeing all the work that you guys are putting in, and then getting ready for that season to open up the 2023 high school football season, which will open next year, and we'll see the Hoover Vikings taking on the likes of Buchtel, Mansfield Senior, Hudson. Yeah, you mentioned Jamie. That's a little bit of a grinder opening up.
But we're blessed with some more greatness.
We got more greatness coming through. Coach Wuske from Massillon. Coach, tell you what,
Greg Wuske.
Cody Fair pops out when you see him wrestle on the mat, and then you just see the physique and the. I mean, he's chiseled. He's getting after it out there. What's he been like to coach for you? How's the transition been from the deep football run and the playoffs to now?
Well, the biggest problem we've had is last 3 or 4 years with Massillon making the long run that we do. We typically get our football players week 16.
Yeah.
And by then, most guys have already been in the room 2 or 3 weeks. They've already alphaed. They're where they need to be. And, I'm waiting for, 18, 15 guys to join the room and then find a way to get them alpha to where they can compete. So that's
a huge point.
We're still fighting with getting guys where they need to be because, you come out of football and you're conditioned for 15 seconds and 1 minute of standing around. And now we're doing 3 minutes of running around and 10 seconds of standing around. And it takes a while to get those guys situated. And Cody was fortunate that he pretty much watched his weight most of the football season. So he didn't come in with that donut, if you will, that some guys have to get rid of, that spare tire. So, and he's been key. He's been a leader. And some of us have that. Some of us have that done lap.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Our belly. Yeah, my buddy here used to be a 106 pounder.
I was never 106. 130 was where I was at. I was 119 as a freshman, but that was about as small as I got.
But yeah, we've got several football players that are competing. Cody is one of our main guys, and he's only a junior. That's the key.
Wow,
I mean, he's growing into his body.
Still young.
And his little brother is right behind him at 190.
Wow.
And he's only a sophomore. So we're generally a young team, led with some juniors.
Are those guys drill partners then?
No, believe it or not, Cody typically runs with Brandon Carmen.
Okay. Linebackers got to stick together. Carmen is
one of those other situations where you got a football player where he's trying to find his way, where getting down to 190 was not even feasible. So he's going to try wrestling at heavyweight. but,
Okay.
Okay.
he hasn't had a lot of mat time yet. So the other big surprise for us is our heavyweight. You got Chase Finnegan. I mean, he's been a guy that's been with the program for as long as I can remember, and he's finally putting stuff together. He made a deep run, and he's.
I saw that. I was watching him. I'll tell you what, here's a good question for you, Coach. And I know it's something that we do at North Canton as well that probably not a lot of people know about. And I see your program improving. Is talk about the Iron Boys at Marlington.
Oh, those things are phenomenal. What we've done is Marlington has put together what they call the Iron Boys. We have like 6 series where Stark County schools send their JVs down
Every Monday
or 2 Mondays a month.
Yeah.
And then we pull them up. They
match
wrestle.
them up. They wrestle 5 or 6 matches on a Monday evening.
That's
Our
awesome.
JV kids, and there's 150
Oh,
kids there.
it's phenomenal. They got that little field house they got down there. There's very little parent interaction. It's just coaches and kids, and they just wrestle and roll.
Wow.
And it takes a lot of pressure off us as coaches because
to catch those kids up to speed to the other guys.
Exactly. Because when we go to these dual meets, we're doing typically the dual meet thing isn't what's happening anymore. Now it's a try or a quad, and it's hard to fix those extra matches in when you got those double weights covered.
Right.
And we can get those kids matches, and they're going to end up getting 15, 20 matches by the end of the season.
And you get those kids that are a little bit behind out of your room to coach at a high level on that Monday at a different. You can coach at a different level as well.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you what, Stark County wrestling is Stark County wrestling. You're gonna come across some tough kids. There's high level guys all around, but that next tier, the kids that are coming up, maybe started as an 8th grader, and that Iron Boys thing is going to elevate Stark County wrestling.
That helps
help
those
the
kids.
middle ground guys become a little more solid.
It's like the bridging of the gap between the kids that started wrestling in youth when they were in kindergarten,
right,
versus those guys that got cut from their 7th grade basketball team and they decided to come out for wrestling in middle school. It's like a little on ramp to get them up to speed so they can actually maybe compete with some of the other kids that have been doing it since they could tie their shoes.
Yeah, Coach Wuske joining us, Massillon Tiger head wrestling coach. Want to shout out a couple of our special partners here at Stark Media. And speaking of Massillon, located in downtown Massillon at 303 Wyrick Boulevard Northwest, the Eagles FOE number 190. Call them at 330-832-7385. Go down there, sign up for your membership. They're open 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Thursday. You can check out Tim Arnold's mama down there, Annie. She'll serve you up during the daytime over there at the Eagles FOE number 190. Check out their website at eagles190.com. They donate over $100,000 a year to local charities. And how about our friends over at Hilsher Clark Electric Company, locations all over Ohio. Corporate office down at 519 4th Street Northwest in downtown Canton. You're looking for employment, call them at 330-452-9806. You're looking to get into the trades, Hilsher Clark will employ you. They are a local Stark County electrical contractor with more than 100 years of experience in the industrial, commercial, residential, and specialty markets. And as we get ready to kind of wrap things up here before the finals, you're looking for some good food. I believe the Browns are playing this afternoon, or if you want to grab something before you come back here, check out our guy over at Lindsay's Pizza, John Lindsay, inside the Hillsdale Shopping Center over at 2827 Whipple Avenue in Canton. Call them at 477-3800, or you can order online at lindsays.pizza.com. Coach, tell everybody who really doesn't know your history in wrestling, kind of stops that you've made, people that have really impacted you the most in your coaching career, and really your time with the Massillon Tigers, what you've really maybe some points of emphasis and how you've kind of created a culture inside of your room.
Sure. Well, I graduated from Fairless a long time ago, 1986. I joined the military, went to the National Guard, came out, and when I married into a Massillon family, back then Massillon had 2 middle schools. We had Longfellow and we had Lauren Andrews, and I wanted to get involved in coaching, and I got with Coach Skelly at Longfellow. And my first year, I was the assistant junior high coach at Longfellow. The following year, we all moved up to the varsity staff. So I was a varsity assistant for 15 years. And then we started having kids, and my boys were young. And I went down to the youth, and I ran the youth for 10 years.
We competed at the youth quite a bit.
A lot. We banged heads a lot. And then I eventually moved. They got me moved up into the junior high, and I took over the junior high for 5 years. And then this is my 4th year as a high school coach.
Wow.
So I've been with Massillon about 30 years
Holy
coaching
smokes.
wrestling for Massillon.
That's
So,
amazing.
matter of fact, it's kind of funny, but like Mr. Salvino,
Yeah.
he was mine.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
wow.
I coached him when he was a freshman and sophomore. Junior
Okay,
year.
so
We
we got
graduated the same year.
yeah.
we got to get some good Super Paul stories here,
Oh,
man.
no, no, no,
was,
no,
was,
no,
was
no,
he a handful? Was he one of those guys? You
Paul's
know?
another one of those very intense, solid wrestler, a little stubborn at times,
Yeah.
kind of like Frankie is, little Frankie. But yeah, it's funny how that's gone full circle. I mean, there's several guys that have been in my program that are now administrators at the high school.
Yeah,
so
that's got to be interesting. It's got to be fun for you to be able to see that.
makes me feel old.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, question for you, Coach. A little trivia here. But based with your background, all these years in wrestling, and me and TJ posted this question last week. Luke Fickle, do you know what weight class he wrestled when he was high school state champ? Jamie's shaking his head.
Well, I'm trying to think. Is that back? Was he 182, 175?
That's what I was thinking. I guess something like that.
Yeah, 182.
Well, you know what? I thought he was a heavyweight.
I didn't think he was.
Well, he was
heavyweight.
like TJ was saying. He was kind of like maybe like a small
He
heavyweight.
didn't look
or
like a
he was-
heavyweight. He was
No.
tall and
Right.
lean, but like almost like a Brady Sullivan. You
Maybe-
don't look at his
maybe he was
frame,
like a
180,
Kyle,
but
like a
he
Kyle
was-
Schneider kind of. Yeah.
Maybe he was
tall and
189.
lean.
89. That's what I
back
was thinking.
back then that weight class was there, 189.
189 was the
Wow,
weight.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna have
Yeah.
to Google it. I thought he was a heavyweight.
Three years unbeaten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was a bad
He
dude,
was a
man.
bad
Yeah.
dude,
we
absolutely.
talked last week.
And
at
we
the-
let that guy go to Wisconsin.
Yeah, right. We were
Good for him.
talking last week on the Iron Man. I said probably one of the greatest feats by a defensive lineman that most people don't realize was his performance in the Rose Bowl
Right.
when they played Arizona State. He did it with one arm.
Mhm.
He had dislocated his shoulder, and they basically strapped it down. He's in there taking on double teams with one arm,
Yep.
and he was still holding his ground.
But that's the wrestling mentality.
Yeah,
That's-
exactly.
That's just what we do. I mean, it's
Right.
phenomenal watching all these kids and all these. I mean, just here, this is the first we've been back to the holiday in forever, and it's like we're seeing schools from West Virginia, which we'll see when we go down to the Wheeling Park duels. But then
Wheeling
we
Park.
had some schools from.
Well, there we go. Update on Luke Fickle.
I cheated.
He cheated.
He was a heavyweight his sophomore, or he was
Uh-huh.
89 his sophomore.
Ah,
year.
see,
all right.
But he was-
I had 89.
He was a
Good looking
two-time.
out,
He was
Coach.
two-time
All
heavyweight.
Right.
I had
Yeah.
I had
He
to
was
go back
two-time
and figure out what weight classes. We've moved them around so many times.
Right.
But it's just fun to see,
Oh,
you know,
man,
all
look at
these
this
kids
guy.
battle. And,
Ah,
oh boy,
I know this guy.
oh boy. So yeah, it's good to see, you know, all these different schools
Yeah.
coming around. Like, so we haven't been here. We typically are other things, and things have worked out on our schedule that we were able to get into this.
it's
So
too close. Too good a competition.
yeah,
for
I
schools
mean,
like
it
you
just
not to
makes
be in.
sense. Well, for the longest time, we really weren't there.
Right, yeah,
We weren't there. Now we can come in and we can compete. We're there. We're not all the way there.
Now this coming to this stuff is what takes you from where you are to
Right.
the level you're trying to go to.
And our biggest problem that we have at Massillon is this is the third year now that I haven't had the small weights.
Yeah.
I don't have a 106. I don't have a 113. They don't show up in the room. They're nowhere to be found. I got plenty of heavyweights. We've got plenty of the big kids and middleweights. We just don't have the small guys.
Yeah.
Got to do a TikTok video. Get them interested.
Oh, I'm not a teacher, but I walk the halls and I go in anytime baseball's practicing. I've tried to, kidnap a couple basketball
Come on,
players.
guys. Come on,
Hey,
come on, guys.
I mean, I'm dangling. You're going to automatically let her. All you have to do is step on the mat and raise your hand. I mean,
You start in the middle schools with the littlest, tiniest dude that walking around the hallway and be like, "Hey, man, what do you do in the winter?"
well, that's
know, you
funny you
did-
bring that up. I mean, we've got a young man that's a freshman that wrestled 98, was a youth guy, huge, traveled all over the place. I thought we were set. He alphaed 120. He can't go any lower.
Oh, really?
He had like
Oh.
a 4-inch growth spurt over the summer.
Oh,
So
Well,
it's
good for him. I'm still waiting for that
Well-
summer growth spurt, so I can't hate on that
Well,
guy. For
you
that.
know what? We didn't have the growth hormones in our draft. I mean, look at me. I'm the same way. I'm 5'8" on a good day.
To me, you two are the same height.
Exactly. Yeah, we're all right. It's good, but it's just funny how the kids have changed a little bit. I mean, you can
Yeah.
agree that it's a little different dynamic, which is rough because every year they're 14, 15, 16, 17. We get older.
Yeah.
Right, Yep.
So I've had many of the surgery and repair work done to facilitate keep doing this.
Gotcha.
Well, Coach,
Definitely seen improvement.
Yeah.
I watch
keep up the
everybody.
great work.
I
Right.
watch everybody in the community. I've definitely seen improvement in your program, and it's
Well, thank
exciting to see. I care about all of Stark County and want everybody. I just want us to be the best county in,
Oh,
in
yeah.
Ohio. And to see a school like yours with so much potential, and you're one of those schools where it's built on pride, and it's hard to get to turn a school like that to have major pride and start tradition, because there's so much tradition in other areas,
Right, and they don't want to go into something new and fail. They don't want to look, and they've tried to fix some of that with coming out with the 2-piece singlet, because guys don't want to wear
We're
the
talking
singlet.
about that. Yeah. Yeah.
So the shorts and shirt,
Right.
but the problem is that stuff's more expensive than a singlet.
Yeah.
So
Right,
it's
budget plays in
so
part,
budget plays a part in it when
Yeah.
you got to outfit 25, 30 guys for
Right.
singlets and all that stuff. So it's a never-ending battle.
Question for we're talking about Zion Clark. Any
Starting his MMA career.
Yeah. Do you guys still
We
communicate?
still communicate.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that a lot of that stuff that they shot film-wise with Zion was shot when he was still competing with us, and we set stuff up at the middle school, and the movie that they did was all shot at the high school or at the middle
The
school.
Netflix special. Yeah.
Exactly. So Zion's been doing some pretty cool things out there in California.
At like 6 and 7 years old, he was in our youth program.
Yeah.
Zion started in our
No
youth
way.
program,
Yeah.
and I'm
And
like,
then
Small
got
world.
adopted into the Massillon area, and then
Yeah.
it's been
what a
phenomenal
spectacular
to see
kid.
what he's been doing. And
That's cool.
another great Massillonite is Luane. I can't talk. Lauren
I got you. All right.
Louis. She's still competing with Iowa wrestling and the girls wrestling, competing for U.S. wrestling. So we've got some Massillonites that are doing things in the community. So
I seen a picture of her with Man on social media.
sure.
Yeah. So it's cool to see that.
Yeah. And when she's in town, she'll do an open or something, either with
Oh, that's
Perry
cool.
or somebody. She'll let us know, and we'll try to get everybody over there to try to facilitate that girls wrestling.
With this being the first year that they're going to be down there in at the shot, competing for state championships come second weekend of March. Have you seen any interest from your student athletes walking the hallways? I know we've gone through a couple rooms in Stark County, and there's been 4, 5, 6, 7 ladies that have come out.
We have one sophomore that's wrestled with us for freshman and sophomore year. She takes advantage of the Iron Boys.
Yeah.
And then we have 1 or 2 girls that are wrestling in the junior high level. So
It's actually a lot of girls at the Iron Boys. It's a
there are.
great
And then,
example,
if you were here for the Stark County preview,
Change it
there's
up.
some Stark County
Have the Iron
schools.
Girls.
They have some serious programs. Alliance has got it going on.
Minerva.
Some of these schools have really embraced that.
That's cool.
And
that's a cool. I didn't know.
We have a
returning
returning state placer on our team. She is our only senior, and she's a returning state placer on our team this year.
Wow.
Yeah, we got a chance to talk to Maddie Beggard over there at Northwest. I know she's got her eyes set on trying to place at state this year. I know there's a young lady down there at Sandy Valley. A lot of publicity around her, potentially making a push for Columbus. And
Greg will talk about his girls a lot. He's proud of that
got a lot of
program.
girls.
He likes that. Yeah.
Galachek, Minerva. I know she's tough.
Yeah. Minerva's got a good program going on. Alliance surprised me how many girls they have. They've got 15?
They have a full lineup.
Yeah.
I mean, as close to a full lineup as you can have.
Yeah, which is amazing.
You can run a complete separate practice with their girls team.
Yeah.
I've no doubt. Yeah. You got 15 kids. That's enough to have practice separately.
That's amazing.
Right.
Well, they say it's fastest growing sport, women's wrestling. So.
Yeah.
Well, it was great when we had our conversation with Art Kali that he said, really the West Coast was so ahead of that stuff out there because of the interest that's there. And so we want to give a special shout out to all the coaches, yourself, everybody that's joined on here with us today and has had us in their room. And we'd love to come down here. We'll bring Jimmy B out there, man. Bring Jim Bostic out and get him in your room and kind of talk with some of your guys, because that's really where that work is put in. And to be able to pull back the curtain and be able to see, this is great here. Come out to the Hoover Holiday Tournament and see the competition, but the work that goes on inside of that room, man, that's where you mold and shape yourself and you prepare for this moment, right?
Sure. And we'd like to have you up too and show you off our facilities that we have.
Awesome.
That we utilize for other things other than football.
Yep.
We still use the indoor. We use the weight room. So
I know this. I've been there, and I know that my wrestling team would not be out of shape if I had a 100-yard football field next door to the wrestling team. I would run those guys like dogs. We would be nasty in the third period.
I have it on good
Nasty.
authority. If you ask any one of my kids, they can tell you exactly how many laps it is to bear crawl a mile in Edinburgh.
I guarantee it. I guarantee it. I guarantee
Jamie can tell you how many towels were out there.
Yeah. It's like 97. I counted them before.
But my wrestling
look at
team
that
can also
hallway.
tell you how long it takes you to do the stair laps in the stadium.
Yeah.
So
That's a true workout right there, man. I used to run the steps over there at the Horseshoe.
yeah.
Hey, it gets a little scary, a little sketchy up there in C-Deck, man.
Yes,
Look
it
down.
does.
Yeah, when your knees are shaking, I'm sure it is.
That's nosebleed right up there, brother.
So, all right, man, we're going to step aside and take a break here. They're kind of tearing down some mats, getting ready for the finals coming up here. Coach Wuske from Massillon, appreciate you joining us. Fausnight, John Lowery. We'll be back here more from the 62nd annual Hoover Holiday Wrestling Tournament here in just a few hours as we get the finals underway. We'll step aside, take a break. When we come back, we'll have some messages from our sponsors that we'll tell you about, and we'll get things kick-started back up here on the campus of North Canton City Schools. Hang on.
All right, guys. I gotta go feed your team.
Feed him, man. Appreciate it, Coach.
All right, brother.
Yep.